I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Peabody City Council. The City Council convened on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021 to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business, including both in-person participation and remote participation in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and pursuant to the Act extending certain COVID-19 measures with provisions related to the open meeting law. This meeting of the City Council will be conducted via in-person participation as well as by remote participation. Real-time public comment during public hearings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom meeting platform for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio option. This meeting is being televised live by the Peabody Access Television on Comcast Channel 9 and on RCN Channels 15, as well as being recorded by our City Council stenographer. All councilors are in attendance this evening. However, Councilor Welton will be taking part remotely this evening. As we have remote participation by a councilor, it is required that we take a roll call for all votes. Let us all please rise for a moment of silence. Would you now please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Actually, Councilor Gould, there's no record for this meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is hearing 4A, which is a special permit hearing for Farm Street Realty Group, Limited Liability Company, 2 Washington Street, which was recessed from September 9th, 2021. Would the applicant or their representative please come to the podium and state their full name and address for the record?
Councilor O'Neill, Chairman.
Councilor Melville.
I'm going to be recusing myself from this particular hearing. Because of the content of this particular special permit will require an application for an alcohol license, which will be reviewed by the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, and to avoid the appearance of a conflict between myself as a counselor and my position at the ABCC, I'm going to recuse myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. We'll give you a few moments to leave the podium. Good evening, Mr. Panos. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, here on behalf of the petitioner, Farm Street Realty Group, LLC. I'm joined by Ed Greeley, who is the principal of Farm Street, Julie Daigle, the general manager, and Peter Ogren of Hayes Engineering. I have hard copies of the PowerPoint we're going to present tonight, and with the permission of the president, I'd like to have that distributed so you could follow along and take notes. And
can I get a motion to receive? You've heard the motion by Councilor Rosenthal to receive.
On the motion,
Councilor McGinn.
This is the same, through you to Attorney Panos, this is the same presentation as 2 weeks ago, correct?
It's slightly different.
Slightly different.
It's
okay.
the PowerPoint.
It's
keyed to the.
No, I understand.
Yep.
We had received it as a late communication on the 9th, so I didn't want to be redundant. But given that there is a slight difference, let's proceed with the motion.
We have a motion on the floor to receive this item from Councilor Rosenthal. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Yes. Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Please continue, Mr. Panos.
So just some administrative matters. I sent to the council, and it's part of your packet, pardon me, a letter dated September 14th, which talks about a couple of application changes that I'll go through in my presentation.
Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8E and refer to this hearing. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You've heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Ms. Panos?
Through the President, Clerk Danforth, can you share your screen for the purposes of presenting the PowerPoint? Excellent. Thank you. So just to go through the highlights of that September 14th letter, the first thing it does is it replaces entirely the September 2nd letter that was not received at the last council hearing. That is off the table. We've withdrawn that entirely. The second thing it does is it formally introduces the plans that were given to you at the last council hearing on September 9th. So I included large-scale, full-size copies of that same plan, no changes from that which you received on September 9th. And the third revision is to the application itself, which affects Section 6 and 12, removing reference to service of alcoholic beverages, but keeping the remainder of the application as it was when it was originally tendered to you back in August. So the other thing I'd like to point out is the restaurant uses proposed are allowed by right in the Business Central District. Outdoor dining, which is a critical component of this application, and Mr. Greeley will present on that a little bit, is done through a City Council issued license pursuant to zoning ordinance section 5.4.6, and we will come back to you next month with that license request. But just to give you a full flavor of the entire redevelopment proposal, we'd obviously like to and are excited to tell you about it. And that was a part of the original application. It's a part of tonight's presentation. So with that, Julie, if you don't mind scrolling to the first PowerPoint slide. The property, as I mentioned, is located in the Business Central District. The application is for 2 special permits pursuant to the provisions of zoning ordinance section 4.2.1, allowing for multifamily residential uses for up to 3 apartment dwellings, proposed in section 4.2.5 for up to 10 inn rooms under the hotel motel uses proposed. As mentioned previously, the restaurant and tavern uses proposed are allowed under the zoning ordinance by right and are not the subject of the application before you tonight. The site contains 1 building, and you're familiar with it. The main section of the building at the corner of Main Street and Washington Streets, formerly known as the O'Shea Mansion, will house the inn, restaurant, and a speakeasy-type tavern in the basement. And the carriage house, which is off to the rear of the property, will house the 3 residential dwelling units. Accessible parking to service the 2 Washington Street property is proposed in front of the carriage house. Actually, Julie, do you mind going back to the... Yes. So you can see that big red arrow, 3 proposed accessible parking spaces. So that will service the residential dwelling units and also the hotel, motel, the inn uses. No parking is required under zoning for any of the commercial uses at the property, being the inn, the restaurant, the tavern. However, we have included a parking management plan, and we, through that plan, treat the 2 Washington Street property as if parking requirements under the zoning ordinance applied to all of the uses, which would result in an aggregate of 47 spaces required, and we provide 50 spaces, and they're full 9 by 18 spaces. The zoning ordinance also allows that parking serving uses of the property within the business central district be located on adjacent or nearby lots, which is what is proposed here. So we propose parking to service 2 Washington Street at 12 Washington Street, and you can see the parking lot proposed with a parcel of land sandwiched in between. So with that, I would like to invite through the chair, through the president, Mr. Peter Ogren to talk about some of the engineering aspects of this proposal, and then Mr. Greeley will follow with the vision. Excellent.
As Jason indicated, this
Excuse me, sir, if you
proposal
could just,
takes place
sir,
on
if you
2
could just,
parcels of
sir, if you could
land.
just please state your name and address for the record.
Peter Ogren, I'm with Hayes Engineering, and my address is 603 Salem Street, Wakefield, Mass.
Thank you, please continue.
It takes place on 2 parcels of land, and the first parcel, as Jason indicated, has the Inn and Tavern on it, and we've got the 3 parking spaces that were mentioned there, handicap spaces in front of the residential use. That was a request that was made of us to put those 3 parking spaces there. The remainder of the parking that would be required under the zoning, if it were required, to be 33 spaces is on the adjoining lot, and if we could switch to that plan that shows the second lot. Those parking spaces, as Jason also mentioned, are within the 200 feet that's in the Peabody zoning ordinance for parking that's not on the same lot as the principal use. The access to the handicap spaces, I think some people had questioned, but there's actually an easement along the adjoining property so that you are able to get in and out and maneuver in and out of those 3 spaces on the tavern, inn and tavern lot. The other space, and by the way, these parcels are basically all impervious now. It's a downtown location, and there's asphalt and building covering essentially the entire lots. The other has accesses on both streets, but they're going to need some additional work. We have talked to the city engineer about that, and the only thing that he is requiring as far as that additional work is concerned is a street opening permit to do the widening and relocation. We have designated also an area for a dumpster for all the uses on that second parcel to service all of the uses on all of the lots. This slide indicates the engineering comments that we got. Driveway opening permits will be needed for any of the new curb cuts. They're actually not new, but they're widening. The project, I mentioned, the existing sites are impervious essentially completely. The project will actually decrease the imperviousness. We've indicated a number of areas which will be landscaped. We've actually been particularly sensitive to our neighbors as far as what we were landscaping. And those areas can also be used for snow storage. The site redevelopment project is a redevelopment project, and as such is exempt from strict compliance. This was another comment that he had. Under the Massachusetts stormwater requirements, and the MS4 permits that all the cities and towns are required to work under, we're only required to make improvements. We don't have to be strictly comply because we have an existing site that's, as I said, essentially impervious. So what we've done in order to do it is decrease the amount of perviousness and added landscaped areas. I think that basically describes the sites as we see them, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council might have. I don't know what you want to save that till after the entire thing.
Just continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Greeley, business owner located at 58 Pulaski Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. Thank you, councilors, for your attention and for your patience involving my project. And I mean that sincerely, and I do appreciate it. Julie, you want to flip? This is a schematic of the main floor. Right where I don't know if you could tell by looking at the screen, but there's a little bit of an orange covered area at the bottom middle part of that design. That's going to be the handicap accessible entrance for the main floor, and it's on that main floor that we have a series of 3 dining rooms laid out on the main floor. All added up together, we have dining room 1, 2, and 3, 1 being in the middle part of the graph, 2 being in the left-hand side there with the turret window, and then up towards the front where you see the brown shaded area and the greenery, that's dining room 3. Occupancy during code review has called for an allowance of 83 seats of dining on that main floor. The rounded gray area right at the bottom of the where you see the brown shaded area, that's the main entrance from the first main floor area out to the courtyard. And I just want to take just a couple of minutes to speak to you relating to the courtyard. The more I started to become knowledgeable related to the property and its history, and I know that I think most of us in the room are, pretty well versed to the majority of the history related to the building. But I thought it to be pretty cool where the location of the tree is. They used to call that back in the late 1700s. They were calling it Eagle Corner, and it was right there on the corner of Washington and Main Streets. And it's where the local soldiers from Danvers, from Beverly, and from Peabody met in April of 1775. I found it interesting that they chose to meet at a tavern. My guess is that there was probably a few pints involved before they opted to run off and to battle in the Battle of Concord and Lexington. But personally, I thought it to be a pretty neat view. And when it became brought to my attention how important that the beech tree is to the city of Peabody, I found it made no other sense whatsoever than to not have that be what it was originally used for, and that was to be a gathering place. So ideally what I'd like to do in my proposed plan, which again has already been mentioned, I'm going to come back to you in a few weeks, I'd like to convert that space to what it once was, and what it once was a gathering place. The outdoor piece of the project will be fully enclosed, professionally land and hardscape designed. There will be privacy fencing and tall arborvitae greenery that will protect not only the patrons' atmosphere on the inside of the courtyard, but also from the abutting property adjacent to the courtyard. I really feel like it's a win-win for everybody. I think it will be a wonderful atmosphere. It certainly is going to offer an awful lot of fun to the folks and the residents of Peabody. And personally, I look forward to seeing it all unfold, and just like we've seen some of that view unfold up at the 58 Pulaski Street. Okay, you can flip me over. The hotel piece consists of 2 floors. There's the second floor of what is currently the O'Shea building, and then there's the third floor of the O'Shea building. We've been able to design a total of 8 rooms to the inn comfortably. Originally, we had spoke in the past about trying to fit 10, and what I did not want to do was take away from the atmosphere, just trying to jam it all in. And so we've come up with a design that allows for 8 rooms comfortably. They are going to be equipped with upscale amenities such as plush bedding, luxurious bathrooms, and all inspired by upscale New England finishes. We're going to work very hard to make it, the region's finest, most premier, most comfortable hotel in all of the North Shore. We plan on designing it so that we can feel proud if our families are to come to town and want to stay there. A couple of views that you see in front of you. An outdoor service area where we can functionally service the patrons to the courtyard. I plan on using, again, hardscape along with hardwired early colonial period style outdoor lighting for ambiance and atmosphere. We plan on putting a pergola center with the main rounded turret. It's called turret style structure, which would be the main entrance from the first floor main area out to the outdoor courtyard. And ideally, it's been designed so that if folks in the area would like to use it as maybe a venue space, maybe fathers can give away their daughters in hands of marriage in the space. Ideally, would like to have that layout become a possibility. Walking out from the main entrance down to the pergola where we can enjoy ceremony and family and friends. For privacy, again, I emphasize privacy fencing and tall arborvitae greenery. And I believe that's it.
In conclusion, you heard a wonderful presentation. This is going to be a transformational project. I think we all appreciate the significance of that, particularly for our downtown, where so many of us in this room have labored to realize this incredible vision. And it goes without saying that these uses are in harmony and exceed the mix of uses at the surrounding neighborhood and consistent with the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance, certainly. And as I indicated, will help the city in its extensive efforts to help redevelop the downtown. So with that, all 3 of us are available for any questions each of you have, and look forward to them, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Panos. Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak in favor of this application? Mayor Betancourt, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to you and to all the councilors. It's great to be with you. Hope everybody's doing well. Certainly, you've heard me speak many times about this project. I'm not going to go into the details. You've heard me before. But I do really believe that this is a transformational project for that area. I believe this is a foundational piece to what we all want in our downtown area. It's going to bring jobs. It's going to bring tax revenue, real estate tax revenue, hotel tax revenue, and meals tax revenue. Significant funds would be coming to the city of Peabody. We are going to be helping a number of those businesses in that area. Again, being a foundational piece, I think all the restaurants and shops in that area will greatly benefit by having this project take place. And also, it is finally just going to clean up a very blighted area that has struggled for many, many years to bring some positive use to those buildings and to that area. So certainly, I could get into great detail. I won't, but I believe the benefits to this project are extraordinary and of great benefit to our city. This project is ready to go. It is fully funded. Plans are ready. Things are going to be happening here as soon as we're able to move forward with the special permits. We have the two pieces today for the hotel and for the residential. We're going to be bringing forward to you a request for a license to have outdoor dining next month. And I want to make sure we're all very clear on the next steps for that. I'm going to give you a copy of our Peabody zoning ordinance. This is section 5.4.6 for outdoor dining. Mr. President, can I give a copy?
Can I get a motion to receive?
So moved.
On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould, Manning Martin, Sasslaw, Welton,
Yes.
Charis, McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Please continue, Mayor Betancourt.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Gould. So I just want to make sure, because this is, again, something new that's going to be coming to us, that I want to make sure we knew exactly what the rules and regulations were that we were going to be adhering to. This is for an outdoor license. And over the last couple of years, because of COVID, we've been operating under a temporary dining ordinance, outdoor dining ordinance. Unanimous vote some time ago to try and assist our restaurants and eateries to provide some outdoor dining for them. As I've mentioned before, 18 restaurants were able to utilize the outdoor dining to save jobs, to keep the businesses going, and some thrived with this outdoor dining. So certainly it's something that I think we need to continue and push forward and give these restaurants and eateries the best options to succeed. This, for our downtown, would be what we're operating under. For the restaurants that were interested during the temporary, which is continuing still, the governor extended it until April, and from what I'm hearing, that's going to be extended even further. We have an application that we've been utilizing that comes to me that is distributed to all the city departments. It would be the same application that will be coming to you as a request for a license. And this is a license that we do every year. Typically at the end of the year, we'll give a number of approvals for an annual license, taxi drivers, fortune tellers, whatever the case may be. It's an annual license that's typically done at the end of the year. You remember those meetings where you see about 50 taxi drivers, a whole bunch of other businesses that we give annual licenses to. That's what this is right here. So this would be the application that would be coming to you that we've been utilizing for our temporary. And Mr. President, if I could present that.
Sure. Can I get a motion to receive?
Motion to receive.
On the motion, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould, Manning Martin, Sasslaw, Welton,
Yes.
Charis, McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Mayor Betancourt.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you, Counselor. Just to conclude, this, I wanted to make sure is clear. This is what we're going to be presenting. I think it's the petitioner's intention to file that to be received at the next council meeting, I believe on the 14th, and then hopefully it'll be marked up at a very quick meeting thereafter. But to conclude, I think this is the moment, a significant moment for our downtown. This is the project, this is the developer, and I think this is the moment to make this happen. I'm asking for your approval today for these two special permits, which is an important step, and then also when we come forward to you for the outdoor dining, which I believe will be a great benefit again to the downtown, and really is the final piece for us to be able to close on this property by the end of this year. hopefully sooner than later. But these special permits are the key to make this happen. As Mr. Greeley mentioned, he needs the dining, outdoor dining, he needs the restaurant, he needs the hotel, and he needs those residential units. And I think he's going to do something special. I'm just very anxious, as I know all of us are, to be able to turn it over to him so he can work his magic, just like he did in transforming Pulaski Street from an abandoned mill with some questionable uses to now something that is something we're all very proud of. And I think the same exact thing is going to happen with this project at 2 Washington Street. Happy also to answer any questions as well, Mr. President, but I thank everyone for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Betancourt. Are there any other members of the general public who'd like to speak in favor of this project at this time? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's George Kaplan. I'm the owner of the abutting property at 111 Rear Main Street. That better? Okay. And for the last 6 years or so that I've owned my property, I've looked at this property and it's getting worse day by day. So I enthusiastically endorse this plan. The only issue that I have is the dumpster location, and I spoke to Mr. Greeley, and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to work something out. So hopefully this will move forward and improve the neighborhood considerably. Thank you.
Great, thank you for coming. Are there any other members of the general public who'd like to speak at this time? I'd like to ask any members who are on the Zoom if they would like to speak on this matter, this hearing, in favor. Raise their hand, please, so we can address you. There's an attendee with the last 4 digits, 0052. Would you like to speak on this matter in favor? Okay, they haven't raised their hand to do that. Seeing no one else on the Zoom with their hand raised, at this time, are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition of this application? Are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition of this application at this time? Once again, please, on the Zoom application, please raise your hand so we can call on you. Seeing no one at this time, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilors, you've heard the description of the project and you've seen the drawings. I appreciate that the applicant provided an overview of all the future uses to provide a full view of the project. I think that's useful for the council to see how the overall project's coming together. I do want to reiterate what you heard from the applicant's attorney regarding what was described in 8E, which is what's before us tonight, is in this hearing the hotel motel use and the residential use at 2 Washington Street that require the special permit in the BC. The other future uses and the other properties are not before us, and as the mayor just indicated, that's coming. So as councilors are well aware, this special permit application is an anticipated step in the city's effort to redevelop 2 Washington Street. The RFP indicated in section 2D, which was on page 4 of the RFP, the potential need to obtain special permits. And the RFP response put forward some of the uses that would require special permits, and we're here to consider those specific uses tonight. I met with the applicant and his team, including their attorney, in advance of this meeting to fully understand what's being proposed. The parking management plan provided contemplates all anticipated future uses. This is useful in that it shows the viability of the overall plan. It should be noted that spaces for the non-residential elements at 2 Washington Street do not require parking because the parcels are located in BC. I'm going to repeat that. It should be noted that the spaces for the non-residential elements of 2 Washington Street do not require parking because the parcels are located in the BC. However, as a practical matter, parking will be needed for those uses to be successful, and the plan exceeds the non-BC zoning requirement by 3 spaces. Parking for the 3 dwelling units that were shown on 2 Washington Street parcel on the original site plan have been moved to the 12 Washington Street parcel to allow more handicap parking at 2 Washington Street. Keeping in mind that the parking management plan goes well beyond the number of spaces required by zoning, I find it to be very adequate. Councilors may recall hearing from me in the past that I believe the parking available at 12 Washington Street helps unleash the potential of 2 Washington Street, and by that comment, this is what I had in mind. Beyond parking, my interaction with the applicant's team touched on many other elements of the application. I've proposed a number of conditions to which the applicant is fully agreeable. These relate to the number and location of the dwelling units, a de-letting requirement suggested by the Health Department, acknowledgement of the parking management plan, considerations for trash and recycling, considerations for deliveries, a number of points that relate to the exterior appearance and landscaping, and construction hours. You heard from Mr. Kaplan a moment ago, who owns the abutting property, or one of the abutting properties, I should say, and he mentioned his concern about the location of the dumpster. While I definitely understand that concern, I agree that there'll be a definite willingness on the part of the applicant to work that out, and I believe that the trash and recycling condition to which the applicant's agreeable largely addresses that concern. I find this application to be consistent with the city's February 2021 request for proposal and the applicant's March 2021 RFP response. 2 Washington Street is one of the most architecturally and historically significant properties in the city, and I'm excited to be taking this next step in its redevelopment. This special permit is needed to advance this important project. I fully support this application, and at this time, I would defer to other councilors. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Are there any other comments or questions from other councilors? Councilor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it very much. Mr. Greeley, being in the hospitality business, certainly nowhere near what you're proposing, but I see the vision you have, and boy, is it exciting. It is so exciting. I've been in every nook and cranny of that building a couple times, and for you to verbalize gets me so keyed up about being in there once it starts construction, and I can't tell you enough how grateful we are for you to work in partnership with the city, and I fully expect the council to be 100% supportive of this. But thank you so much for having a vision. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Are there any other members? Councilor Rosino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, great presentation. I appreciate all of this. This has been a long time coming. We've been looking at this proposal for a while now. The one question I have is regarding handicap parking. Between the hotel use, the restaurant use, and the outside dining, does the 3 handicapped spots on the 2 Washington Street property satisfy the needs of the dwelling?
We've provided fully compliant ADA spaces. So there's one on the 16 Washington Street parcel, and there are 3. So yes, the answer to that question is yes. Peter, do you have anything to add? Through the chair.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the question revolves around whether or not they would be available for somebody in the residential units. Was that what the question was?
No. Well,
I mean, I think
they are being utilized by a resident, then that would be lessen the amount of handicap parking for the restaurant. I just want to make sure that there's enough handicapped accessible parking for the dwelling. That's the only question
Well, the handicap accessible parking under the requirements is based on the number of parking spaces that are actually required. Here, where there are none required, there would be no handicap required to be provided. It's difficult to say whether that's enough to service the uses, but they could also go park in the handicap spaces that are in the lot that's within 200 feet.
200 feet's a long distance for, okay. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
But if I may, yes, those parking spaces will be available for the residences.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilor Rosano. Any other, Councilor Manning Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when you first, through you to Mr. Greeley, when you first came to this council with your vision of 58 mills, it was quite a dream. And we listened to you and we questioned you, and we didn't agree to allow you to do everything that you wanted. So you pulled some things back, and it was clear to me that you said, well, I'm just going to have to prove myself to them. And boy, have you proven yourself. For folks at home who have not gone down to 58 mills yet, you really should check it out. You could spend a whole day there. It starts off with coffee. You can get lunch. There's a restaurant there now with dining, and there's antique shops. I still haven't been to everything that's in there, but you can spend an entire day there. Hair salons, like I said, antique shops. I run into Colleen a lot there when she's antiquing. So it's really a lot of fun. So yeah, you've proven yourself, and you've invested in this city, and you've become a part of the fabric of this community. And you've turned in a place that the former ward councilor, Rico Mello, used to refer to as the Wild Wild West. It was bad down there. Police were there often. And it's really remarkable what you've done. So you certainly have proven yourself. I'd like to ask you a question just as we move forward, because as the mayor explained, there's a lot of different steps that we need to take with you in order for you to be successful. So I wanted to ask you about your financing. I know that you get a commitment letter from the bank. So the reason I ask that is I would like you to educate me on how long that commitment letter is, for lack of a better word, good for. What are your time restraints? Because as we move forward, I don't want the council to not be aware of your time restraints, and we need to keep the ball rolling for you. So if you could explain that to me. Okay. Thank you.
I have a significant amount of private investing on the behalf of myself that I'll be making. And I also have a loan that's been approved through the Community Development Authority, through the City of Peabody. And I also have a commitment from a local bank, Salem 5, commitment letter. The commitment letter from Salem 5 has not yet gone to, we have agreed, we've gone back and forth on several occasions negotiating terms. I will say that Salem 5 has been excellent to work with, extremely fair, reasonable, excellent actually. But at the moment, all we have is a commitment. It's a strong commitment, but it's contingent upon closing and agreeing to finalizing the terms of what's inside of the commitment letter. And you know, anytime you go for a significant amount of commercial lending, that's the first step. You have to go to the bank, you have to apply to the bank. They send you their commitment letter, and it has a expiration date. Matter of fact, this morning I had to get that expiration date extended an additional 45 days. It actually expires October 15th. As of this morning, it expired October 15th next month. I had to go back and request to the bank that they extend it to November 30th, because obviously I know that I have to come back to the outdoor piece and go through the process with City Council approval. So I know I wouldn't be able to make it in time to finalize those terms. One thing that has been I would say a fair concern of mine is that the longer this gets drawn out, and I don't foresee this happening, just because I think economically, the country seems to be in a pretty decent place at the moment. But technically, the bank could, at any time, not yet having closed on that commitment, they could pull that commitment back. There's nothing set in stone, even though they give you a commitment letter date of a finalization date. There's nothing set in stone until all the signatures are signed that this is exactly what the bank is going to do. So ideally for me, I'd like to get going yesterday. I would have liked to have gotten going last month because interest rates can change, terms can change, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a strong commitment from the bank. I think my history with them is a very good history with them, so I think they're obviously confident and comfortable with me. But look, the reality is if next month something insane happens economically or what have you, and the banks have to pull back from all their customers, obviously I could potentially get caught up in that. So I'd like to close as soon as possible.
Thank you for that explanation. That's very helpful. So there's a lot riding on this with the individual investment, the bank's commitment, and the city's investment. So we need to keep our eye on that and keep moving forward. So I appreciate your explanation. And then lastly, I'd like to hear the conditions that are going to be added to this special permit so that we all are aware of them in advance and that we know that that you all agree to them. So I really wanted to hear the conditions, and specifically the delivery and loading conditions that Councilor McGinn referenced. So if we could hear those conditions, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The conditions that were agreed to are as follows. There shall be a maximum of 3 dwelling units to be located only in the carriage house as indicated on the special permit site plan. Dwelling units to be brought into compliance with lead law following all applicable requirements of 105 CMR 460 and 454 CMR 22, including the use of appropriately licensed lead abatement contractors. Parking shall be provided in accordance with the parking management plan depicted on sheet 2 of the special permit site plan. Parking for 2 Washington Street dwelling units may be located in the 12 Washington Street parking area. In accordance with the special permit application and site plan, all trash and recycling materials shall be treated and fully contained as designated on the site plan, and professional pest control service will be utilized on an ongoing basis. Trash and recycling materials shall be removed by a private trash removal service at a frequency adequate to prevent excessive accumulations of such materials from residential and commercial uses, and no municipal trash pickup shall be provided. For the avoidance of doubt, trash collection shall be in accordance with the ordinances of the City of Peabody, and no trash or refuse or recycling collection shall occur between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. on any day of the week. Any pickup or delivery of supplies associated with the commercial uses shall be accommodated on the property with no vehicles for such activity parked on Washington Street or Main Street. The applicant understands and agrees that, in accordance with the special permit narrative, zoning ordinance section 5 shall apply, including the Peabody Downtown Design Standards Main Street Subdistrict, to the extent such standards pertain to the exterior renovations and signs. No advertising banners or large signs to be hung on the exterior fence around the property. The property is located in the National Register of Historic Places Washington Street Historic District, and the applicant will consent to all exterior renovations being reviewed by the Peabody Historical Commission. No apparatus, including but not limited to antennas or satellite receiving devices, shall be placed on any roof or facade of the structure where visible from adjacent streets and/or properties. In accordance with the special permit application and site plan, HVAC equipment shall be screened from site. No window air conditioners or similar apparatus shall be installed in the windows of the structure. landscaping shall be maintained in accordance with the special permit site plan and zoning ordinance section 10. The historic tree must remain and be properly maintained. In accordance with the special permit application and city ordinances, construction hours of operation shall be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, and is otherwise set forth in zoning ordinance section 15.13. All references to the special permit site plan and these conditions shall be to the September 7th, 2021 version of such plan.
Thank you, Councilman McGinn. Councilman Martin, did that address your question?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilman McGinn. And so those are all the conditions. We're all on the same page. There's no surprises. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Those are my remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Martin. I see that Council Welton had his hand up. Council Welton?
Thank you, Council President. I'll be brief. I am excited about this project. I appreciate Mr. Greeley making the investment in this project. I think it's going to be a transformation for downtown. Just a follow-up to the question that Councilor Rossignol had, it appears to me that the 3 accessible parking spaces are placed next to the carriage house. I think what at least I'd love to hear is just if we find that more accessible options are available, that the petitioner would be willing to discuss that once the property is open and accepting business. I think when you look at the sort of charting for where the accessible handicap spots are, if you had residents that needed those spots, then there would be no accessible spots for folks to enjoy everything that's happening at 2 Washington Street. So certainly don't want to delay or belabor the point. I just think it'd be good to hear that the petitioner would be willing to revisit should that be a situation where more accessible spots might need to be figured out, whether that's in the way of a drop-off area or something along those lines. I think perhaps that might help clarify what Councilor Rossignol was asking as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Welton. Would you like to comment, or did Council Welton's questions concern?
Thank you, Council. Good question, very good point. Council Rossignol, good point. As I've had a few minutes to sit here and think about the original question that Council Rossignol made, I'm absolutely amendable to any improvement. Functionally, I want a very comfortable, convenient atmosphere, and I can promise you, anybody that, if I have seniors coming in complaining that it's very difficult to park and to get in, I won't need City Council to improve my product. I will be doing that on my own for sure. But yes, I am amendable if it becomes an issue. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greeley. Any other councilors have any questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
You've heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from Farm Street Realty Group, LLC, care of Painus Law Group, 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit seeking the use of the property for a motel hotel up to 10 rooms, as referenced on the special permit site plan dated September 7th, 2021, and use of the property for 3 one-bedroom apartment dwelling units, as referenced in the special permit site plan dated September 7th, 2021, at 2 Washington Street, Peabody, Mass., is filed in accordance with Section 4, 4.2, 4.2.1, 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with the following conditions. There shall be a maximum of total of 3 dwelling units to be located only in the carriage house as indicated on the special permit site plan, dwelling units to be brought into compliance with the lead law, following all applicable requirements of 105 CMR 460 and 454 CMR 22, including the use of appropriately licensed lead abatement contractors. Parking shall be provided in accordance with the parking management plan depicted on sheet 2 of the special permit site plan. Parking for 2 Washington Street dwelling units may be located in the 12 Washington Street parking area. In accordance with the special permit application and site plan, all trash and recycling materials shall be treated and fully contained as designated on the site plan, and professional pest control services will be utilized on an ongoing basis. Trash and recycling materials shall be removed by a private trash removal service at a frequency adequate to prevent excessive accumulations of such materials from residential and commercial uses, and no municipal trash pickup shall be provided. For the avoidance of doubt, trash collection shall be in accordance with the ordinances of the City of Peabody, and no trash or refuse or recycling collection shall occur between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. on any day of the week. Any pickup or delivery of supplies associated with the commercial uses shall be accommodated on the property with no vehicles for such activity parked on Washington Street or Main Street. The applicant understands and agrees that, in accordance with the special permit narrative, zoning ordinance section 5 shall apply, including the Peabody Downtown Design Standards Main Street subdistrict, to the extent such standards pertain to exterior renovations and signs. No advertising or banners or large signs to be hung on the exterior fence around the property. The property is located in the National Register of Historic Places, Washington Street Historic District, and the applicant will consent to all exterior renovations being reviewed by the Peabody Historical Commission. No apparatus, including but not limited to antennas or satellite receiving dishes, shall be placed on any roof or facade of the structure where visible from adjacent streets and/or properties. In accordance with the special permit application and site plan, HVAC equipment shall be screened from site. No window air conditioners or similar apparatus shall be installed in the windows of the structure. Landscaping shall be maintained in accordance with special permit site plan, zoning ordinance, and zoning ordinance section 10. The historic tree must remain and be properly maintained. In accordance with the special permit application and city ordinances, construction hours of operation shall be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, and as otherwise set forth in zoning ordinance section 15.13. All references to the special permit site plan and these conditions shall be to the September 7th, 2021 version of such plan. So moved, Mr. President.
You've heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charist.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Next agenda item is hearing 4B, which is a special permit hearing for Saranac care of Olio, 43 Main Street, which was recessed from September 9th, 2021. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the property owned by my wife and I at 8 Park Street directly abuts 43 Main Street. I am choosing to recuse myself from the City Council debate and vote on the special permit matter before the City Council tonight in order to avoid the potential of a conflict of interest. Given the prospect that the Council deliberations may result in an outcome that could affect the financial interest I possess as a property owner, I do not want to even raise the prospect of any appearance of impropriety. Given the juxtaposition of my home being located directly next to 43 Main Street parcel identified in the application before the council, such circumstances distinguish this situation from my job as a councilor to act upon other similar matters in the area or in my ward. I do, however, retain my right to provide information and to speak before the City Council as a member of the general public, area resident, and a butter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. We'll wait for you to leave the hall, please. Good evening. Will the applicant or the representative please come to the podium, state your full name and address for the record?
Saranac, with my mother Ellen Bash, and we're the owners of 43 Main Street in Peabody.
Thank you. And could you give us a please give us a brief overview of request to amend your current special permit?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for having us back again in this public forum. Every day, all day, my mom and I think about this downtown. Even though we don't live here, all the work we do and the effort we make is on behalf of this downtown's improvement. I sat down with Councilor Turco last week to try to discuss some compromises for adjusting the 4 sets of hours that we have on our permit. Instead, the first thing he said to me was that it was his job to protect our downtown. His exact words. What are we protecting the downtown from? From outside investment? From people who want to spend their time and their money here? From celebrations and entertainment? Councilor Turco then informed me that he would be going door to door with a translator to solicit residents' true thoughts and invite them to show up at this meeting. That sounds highly unusual to me. Is this a standard practice for every special permit? Do you visit the neighbors with a translator for every set of conditions that you place on an entertainment license? Or do we have a process in place by which neighbors are made aware of public hearings through legal ads and mailed notices, through stories in the local newspaper? And didn't we do all of that 2 weeks ago, and no one showed up in opposition except for Councilor McGinn's wife and attorney? We can see what appears to be the result of the door-to-door visits by several letters this week in opposition to our proposal. We respect our neighbors, and we are open to dialogue with anyone, anytime, about our business. Unfortunately, the letters themselves that appeared were full of untruths. 2 of them refer to a 2 a.m. end time. We have never once had a vehicle behind our building at 2 in the morning. One of them refers to events taking place every Saturday and Sunday, and another refers to weeknight events happening often until 10:30 at night. We have only had 26 client bookings so far this entire year. 5 of those wrapped up before sunset. Only one of those events actually went until midnight on a Friday, as we are allowed to do. So while we are open to dialogue with our residential abutters, these notes are the very first concern that we have ever heard, and they are full of false statements. Now, I watched some of the hearings that were held for other hospitality businesses in the last 3 years since we started this project. Black Box, Stanzies, Granite Coast, and just tonight, this massive project proposed at 2 Washington Street. This council fell over yourselves to thank these entrepreneurs and business leaders for making the choice to invest in downtown Peabody. Not only have you not done that for me, I have been made to look as though I am a threat to downtown Peabody. What am I missing here? We are good and respectful neighbors. We care deeply about this community that we invested in, and our neighbors and the people who make a living and their homes here. Since my livelihood and the fate of our investment falls into the hands of this publicly elected council, I would like to take a step back to describe my business to try to give you a fuller picture. This is a little bit hard for me since, to be perfectly frank with you, none of you sitting in front of me falls into the targeted client base to which I market my services. While we host all types of special events at Olio, my expertise is in weddings, specifically in fully customized weddings that are incredibly special and memorable. Clients choose their caterer, they choose their DJ, their lighting, their menu, their layout. their linens, their timeline. The core of this luxury market is in customization, and our space is here for it. We are not a hall. We are a spectacular event space. We are not a hall. We are a worldwide destination, and we are right here in your downtown. To set the record straight, while we have worked extremely hard to build some level of success for ourselves from the ground up over the past few years, that success is measured in awards and national recognition, in notoriety and press publications, and in happy clients. In the traditional business sense, we are not yet successful. Our business is not profitable. My mother and I are the only employees, and we have never paid ourselves $1. These accolades do not pay the bills, and that is why we are here asking this council for help. For us, a successful business looks like 2 to 3 events per week, all year round, primarily on the weekends. We are pretty far from that marker. Unlike a retail store or a restaurant, we are not open for all the hours that we are permitted. The hours are essentially an upper limit that allows us to attract clients and work with them on an event schedule within that timeline. We heard your feedback on our proposal at the hearing last week, and even without any real open discussion, we put together a compromise. We still have far fewer operating hours than our neighbors, but we feel that these small adjustments and the simplification of our hours will make it possible for our event partners to follow them. Here is what we are requesting in true changes. Outdoor cooking and all cleanup to be completed by 10 p.m. every night of the week. Currently, it's 8 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. Conclude all events Sunday through Thursday by 11 p.m. This is a 30-minute increase over our current permit. Allow vehicle loading until midnight on Sunday through Thursday. This is a 1-hour increase over our current permit. Allow vehicle unloading as early as 8 a.m. on Sunday. This is a 1-hour increase over our current permit. That's it. Again, while we are permitted to operate 7 days a week and we need that availability to attract clients, in actuality, our venue is utilized typically a couple of days per week and primarily on the weekends. Now, I'd like to remind everyone about what happened 2 weeks ago at the start of this hearing. In support of our proposed changes, we heard from 9 Peabody residents. Mayor Ted Betancourt, Peabody resident, former business liaison, and immediate past chamber director Julie Daigle, Peabody resident Bukia Chavalry, Ward 2 resident and downtown business owner Paul McGinnity, Ward 2 resident and downtown business owner Wendy Latoff, Ward 2 resident Karen Marie Cohen, Ward 2 resident and Peabody Main Streets volunteer Matthew McGovern, Peabody resident and catering partner Manny Machado, Peabody resident and catering partner Roxanne Torelli, and there were others who wanted to be here but couldn't, or didn't feel comfortable speaking out for political reasons. The council also received letters of support from many others, including the city's planning department via senior planner Andrew Levin, Peabody resident and director of the Chamber of Commerce Beth Amico, Ward 2 resident Emily Cooper, owner of Neighbor Minuteman Press Rick Perry, owner of Neighbor Granite Coast Brewing Company Jeff Marquis and Rob Dunn, event coordinator for the North Suburban JCC Liz Kutrib, owner of Mills 58 and developer Edward Greeley. And here is who spoke out in opposition. Peter and Jeanette McGinn. Councilor Peter McGinn wrote our original conditions. He has refused to consider modifications to them. He has complained to us about our noise, and he opposes this amendment. In fact, despite recusal from voting at this hearing, he is still trying to write and rewrite our conditions. At the last city council meeting, even after hearing from our supporters that we have never received a noise complaint, knowing exactly where our business is located, and hearing from me how much we have struggled and still contributed to Peabody, most of this council still went on record in opposition. Regardless of any new opposing voices that we may hear tonight, that fact from 2 weeks ago is unchanged. My hope is that in the last few weeks you have had time to consider the requests and the feedback from the community, and I hope tonight's outcome will be different. We are not just building a business for us, we are building a future for downtown Peabody with some amazing partners and neighbors who have big dreams and visions like we do. Thank you.
Thank you. And for good order, you referenced your revised request for amendment to special permits. So I'd like to, for good order, I'd like to have some of the communications. It's 8N, if someone could.
Move to receive item 8N and add to the special permit hearing, this hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. You've heard the motion. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis. Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you. I just want to make sure the public hearing is still open. So at this point in time, kind of like what we did 2 weeks ago, we're going to allow people to speak in favor and opposition. So there'll probably be another opportunity for you to speak. I just wanted to make sure you knew that, okay? Thank you. Are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Please come to the podium. And when you do, once again, please state your name for the record as well as your address.
Hello, my name is Matty Moak. I live at 13 Emily Lane, Peabody, and I also work at 10 Centennial Drive. I stand before you tonight, a private citizen, concerned about how you guys are treating people willing to do business in this city. I don't know Sarah too well, but I do know what she represents. She represents the next generation of young entrepreneurs that are willing to take a risk in this city. There's a whole slew of them: Narcus, Stanziani, McGinnity, Kujianis, and Greeley. I believe these risk takers should be rewarded, and frankly, the city should be removing obstacles, not putting them up. I'm concerned with the precedent you guys are setting here and the message you guys are sending to any others interested in investing in the city. Being a business owner is hard enough. Life is hard enough, especially pandemic life. The last thing they need is you guys making life harder. And if you guys don't see this, I think you have a self-awareness issue. You were so quick to deny her the conversation. The optics of this is that there's a group of good old boys looking out for their own instead of the better interest of the city. I mean, how bad could the noise be putting away tables at the end of the night? Is it worth all this? What are we doing here? Have any of the councilors actually witnessed this or heard this for themselves? If not, I think you guys should have a nice little sleepover, little slumber party over the Ward 2 councilor's property. Gould will bring the ice cream. Welton will bring the gossip mags, and you can all trade ghost stories, how you turned downtown Peabody into a ghost town. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor of this application? Please come to the podium. I'm going to look to see if people are on Zoom. Would any attendees like to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand on the Zoom application now. Okay. We're going to, because there's not a name there, we're going to go to the person that has the last four digits, 0052 phone number. If you'd like to speak in favor of this application, please do so now. And please, once again, state your name and address for the record. Okay, just for clarification, doesn't look like they want to speak at this time, nor are there any other hands raised at this point in time. So at this point, actually, we got to do, sorry. We are now at the point where we'll say, are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition of this application? Please come to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Jeanette McGinn, and I live at 8 Park Street with my husband, and I am an abutter to 43 Main Street. I have comments to make in addition to the comments I made at the previous hearing on September 9th. I thank the council for allowing me to speak again. There was quite a bit said at the last meeting about complaints, regarding the notion that complaining is somehow anti-business. Something needs to be clarified. As downtown residents, we are complaining, and we are opposed to the extending the hours of various aspects of Olio's operation. However, we are not anti-business or anti-supporting the businesses that are downtown. People live downtown for a number of reasons, including the desire to live in a rented apartment. I'm sure the owners of these buildings don't want their tenants to move due to unlivable conditions. In addition to renters, others of us that live downtown own our houses and condominiums here. Living downtown provides us the opportunity to frequently visit and shop at many of the businesses and offices. We walk to the bank, get our nails done, go to hair salons and barber shops. We buy flowers downtown and participate in activities at Create and Escape and attend events at the month-long Culture House. We frequent the restaurants, coffee shops, and brewery. We shop at Walgreens. We walk to the post office, the library, and City Hall. All of this is very accessible for anyone who lives downtown. We appreciate and we support local business owners in downtown Peabody. We also rely on the City Council to make sure the operation of these businesses function in a way that is in harmony with the neighborhood that surround them. The downtown should be a place people want to live, not a place that they have to live. Much of what takes place at Olio is loud. As a recent example, during an event that took place on Saturday, September 11th, we could hear the music from Olio from inside our house. As neighbors, we have tolerated this disturbing noise and have complained very little. Although the current situation is not pleasant, we have not asked that Olio's hours be further limited. Given the opportunity to voice our opinion in this forum, we are letting you know what we hear and what we experience, and hope that you do not allow the expansion of hours that will make matters worse for residents. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the hearing on September 9th, that at 11 p.m., there was a discussion on whether or not to proceed or continue this hearing on another night. A comment was made by Councilor Saslaw that the councilors had been meeting since 6 p.m., and now the hour is late. He was making the point to continue this discussion at the next meeting. When he said this, a thought crossed my mind regarding the late hour. It is 11 p.m., and I am also tired too. And then it occurred to me that if these amendments to Olio's special permit pass, and it's 11 p.m. on any Thursday night, and I am looking forward to going home to my peaceful, quiet house and getting a good night's sleep, that potentially there could be an event at 43 Main Street that would be loud and that I could hear in my bedroom. It would be going until a late hour with trucks loading and people coming and going till even later. While in contrast, many of you, including Councilor Saslaw, will be in your quiet, peaceful home getting a good night's sleep. If you can try to put yourself in our place, it should be very clear that any extension of hours is not something you should subject this neighborhood to endure. I have visited and spoken to my neighbors to understand their opinion on these proposed changes. When they hear what is proposed by Olio, they look at me and their faces fall. Many of them are renters. The public hearing notices go to the landlord, and the residents don't know anything about what is happening. In some cases, their bedroom windows are right outside the Olio parking lot or abut walls of this event space. They hear everything. When I told them about Olio's proposal to expand hours, some simply said, "I can't believe that." "It's so loud," said Joanne from 3 Littles Lane. As I'm visiting, I hear a baby crying in the next room while we're talking. A neighbor, Belkis, at 6 Park Street, spoke about her concern for her elderly father who is sick and whose bedroom window is just outside the walls of Olio. You received a letter from Belkis as a late communication. Aura, who lives in an apartment at 2 Park Street above Santoro's, said Olio is incredibly loud and it's right outside my bedroom window. Another person, Eileen from 2 Park Street, speaks Portuguese. She told me she is also disturbed by the noise from Olio. Vigilia, who lives at 55 Rear Main Street and speaks Spanish, said that Olio is very noisy and that her bedroom window faces the entrance that trucks come in and out of, and that she would not want Olio's hours expanded. Daniel, who lives at 3.5 Littles Lane, is here tonight, and this is a 3-story apartment building directly next to Olio's rear area. Daniel explained how much they have been impacted by the noise from Olio and that they are completely opposed to any expansion of hours. Lastly, Rosa, who was here with me on September 9th but needed to leave, manages 6 Park Street for her father, who owns the property but does not live there. The council received a letter from them. They have concerns for their property value and concerns for their tenants. Many of the people who live in this area don't feel comfortable coming and speaking in front of the council at City Hall because of language barriers, work obligations, family, and other concerns. I realize there are opportunities for people to be heard via email and Zoom. Please realize that some of my neighbors work nights and in some cases don't even have computers. Please know that these people all live in this densely populated area around Olio. Please help be their voice for these constituents to protect their right to peacefully enjoy their home. There have been some neighbors that have formally registered their opinions. Please read the letters and emails from Randy, Pat, James, Kimberly, Deborah, and Jose that are listed on your agenda. Others came in later from Joan, Antonio, and Belkis. Also, my husband and I have reviewed the revised request that Olio submitted on September 16th. We have taken the time to document our thoughts on this Olio revision, and we submit it to the city clerk. I hope you will receive it, read it, and give it careful consideration. To conclude, a special permit is the allowance of an activity not allowed by right. In considering the petitioner's request, the City Council is obligated to consider the various impacts on nearby property owners and residents. It is not whether the petitioner is a good or bad person. It is not about the unfortunate consequences of a pandemic. Accordingly, whenever a special permit is allowed, the granting authority may place restrictions on the petitioner's activities that attempt to achieve harmony with the neighbors. That is what took place in 2018 when the City Council granted a special permit to the petitioner with conditions. In essence, a covenant was established. If changed now to allow the expansion of hours, this is a breach of that covenant and important protections that existed for the neighbors would be lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition? If so, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As my neighbor mentioned, I'm Daniel Gidenji, and I live at 3.5 Littles Lane, apartment 1. Thank you very much for actually giving us this opportunity to hear our case. My neighbor, the lady who just spoke here, she came to me, the other day, just like she said, I don't want to repeat that, just like she explained, about Olio, having their business there. Like my apartment is right, actually our bedroom is right, to where their loading, area is, loading and unloading, it's right our bedroom. Actually, if I may, like my wife, actually, she's on her way home, that's why she's not even here. She comes home, we work in the morning, like I work, I'm a nurse, so I work 8 a.m. to 4, so I work at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., so I gotta wake up around, 8 in the morning, I'm sorry, 6 o'clock in the morning, it just wouldn't work for us. I've lived in that area actually because I was living about 7 years ago at the building right across, and now I live, right near where all is, happens to be right there. I've lived there for 10 years. I've had no problems. It's been very peaceful. It's not like the greatest apartments, you would live in, but it's great. It's been peaceful and everything. But now it's just extremely loud, and it just happens like when they're gonna start this, I need to be in bed. If I'm gonna wake up at 6 a.m., as we all know, I need to be in bed around latest 11 o'clock. So that's just ridiculous. It just won't work. And if I may please correct me, the gentleman who just spoke here in favor of, of Olios, based on, I don't know him, but based on his address, he doesn't even live around here, so I don't even know what he's talking about. He wouldn't know because his address is not anywhere near 43 Main Street. So, just to point that out. I don't want to take so much time. I'm not a good speaker, as you probably can tell, but I just wanted to come here and, voice my concern. I've lived there for over 10 years, and this is very concerning, not just for us. Like myself and my wife, we work very hard when we are planning maybe to buy a house, but even for the future residents there, I was thinking about that on my way here. For the future residents who are gonna probably take the apartment I'm living, this is not okay. Those hours, extension of those hours should not be allowed. It completely interrupts, us and the neighbors. It's just, it's just not good. Please, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the general public who would like to speak in opposition? Please come to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Ferreras. I live and own 8 Littles Lane in Peabody, and I do hear the noise from Olio on occasion. I'm not going to say every single night because it's whenever there's an event. Some are loud, some maybe not. But the thing that bothers us the most is banging and the trucks coming and going and the beep, beep, beep. And think about it, guys. If you had a truck backing up in your neighborhood at 12 at night, you're sound asleep, you're going to hear this beep, 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 and then you're going to hear all the rattle and the banging and the yelling, because they do yell at each other. On occasion, I've seen some of the party goers out on the back deck and also in the front on Main Street, smoking, also drinking a beer or something in their hand. I don't know what's in the glass or what it is, but I'm presuming that it's what they're drinking from the party. Again, I'm here. My son lives on the 2nd floor. I'll speak for him. He's sitting over there. He has a little girl who has to be at school in the morning, and she gets woken up on occasion. Not every night, but we're learning to kind of live with what's going on right now, but any extension of those hours would be incredibly, it would just, the value of living there wouldn't even be worth it. It's going to decrease the value of my home. I'm a Peabody taxpayer. I was born and raised in Peabody, Massachusetts. I was born in J.B. Thomas Hospital. I'm a Peabodyite all throughout. I've seen businesses come, I've seen them go. And the downtown is looking up, I have to say. It's coming right along. And I don't disagree with Olio being there. I think it's wonderful, but I think that any extension of those hours would be imposing on our quality of life, definitely. And I implore this council to not let that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Once again, are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition?
My name is Randall Cole, and I live at 5 Littles Lane, literally right behind Olio's, okay? This is a strange, very unusual neighborhood, I admit, that we have residential people living very close to, businesses, very thriving businesses. And we've never had a problem with that, and we still don't have a problem with Olio's as far as a thriving business. They're been very excessive many times, and their parties, that is, their functions. Many times I've joked to my wife about, oh, they go at it again, the Olio's is at it again, you can hear them, the kind of the throbbing, loud, and, sort of, it's not a melody. It's not like I'm hearing melodies, and even if I was, I wouldn't want to necessarily hear other people's melodies in my house. But the thing is, it's loud and disturbing, and now they want to increase that time, which is, I think that their hours are very feasible for operation to make profit, and I can't imagine a function. It can't be scheduled within the current hours. I haven't been to any weddings that go on to the hours they want, but I don't think it's going to add to their profit. It's just going to add to our aggravation as neighbors. It's plus the truck issue, which is another thing. But like I say, I live in the neighborhood, and I don't see any advantage to them going on another hour. First and foremost, I think I've said pretty much enough. I guess that's just my basic opinion. I don't believe they've been unprofitable. They wouldn't be fighting to continue here in Peabody. We want them here in Peabody, and I do believe it's profitable in the hours they currently have. So I've said what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Once again, any other members of the general public who'd like to speak in opposition, please come to the deal.
Hi, Council. My name is James Thompson. I live at 9 Littles Lane, and I can tell you that the noise there has been atrocious on certain nights, and there is truth to it. Has been late. I'm not so sure if it's Olio or their vendors that are coming in loading and unloading the equipment. The loud banging is atrocious, and it has gone on until 2 a.m. on certain nights, and it's just unbearable for us as residents. My wife is, well, I mean, we have to get up early in the morning and go to work, and we're unable to. I mean, on weekends it's not so bad, but to allow this during the week is just unbearable. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Would anyone else like to come to speak in opposition?
Howdy, Andrew McKenzie. I'm at 9 Summer Street. I do not abut Olio, but I am right behind the Black Box Theater. And so we've had a similar experience. The noise from music just permeates the house. You can try to block it out, but that thump, thump, thump background beat just goes right through you. You're in your living room, you're having dinner, all you hear is this background thud, thud, thud for 4 hours at times. It's not how frequently per week it can be, so much as how long it is for that one period of time. And you can waste an entire day just getting angry over it. And so my major concern is expansion here leads to an expansion at the Black Box, leads to an expansion to other places downtown. And I don't want that precedent to be set. If I could go back in time and speak against the Black Box, I probably would. So I don't want this expanding any further than it has. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up and speak in opposition at this time? I'm going to now go to the Zoom platform. It looks like Russ has his hand raised. Could you please state your full name and address for the record?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
For the record, my name is Russell Donovan. I'm not a neighbor, but as most of the councilors know me, I've been frequently at the city council. I couldn't be there tonight. But a little history goes for this subject like this. Probably about 25 years ago, the neighborhood were down before the city council because of noise from a neighborhood operation on Oak Street in Mason. And there were abutters to an industrial zoning area, and the trucks were backing up at 2 o'clock in the morning and making noise. And there was nothing the city council could do because it was a matter of right for that operation to do their business. You have an opportunity here tonight, as a duty tonight, to hear the neighborhood and do what you are elected to do, represent the neighborhood and make a proper decision to protect the neighbors. I'm in opposition to extending the hours. The businesses accepted the special permit when they were allowed to open a business, and they should live with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other members on the Zoom platform who would like to speak in opposition at this time? Please raise your hand. Seeing no one, just to make sure we have a crowd tonight, last call. Does anyone else want to speak in opposition at this time? At this time, I'd like to see if Councilor Turco could take the number of communications and refer them to this hearing, and there's also some late communications too. Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to receive item 8M, a letter in opposition from Beverly Ann Griffin Dunn, Ward 2 resident and school committee member. With that, item 8J, Deborah and Jose Ferraris, 8 Littles Lane, letter in opposition. Item 8I is Kimberly Hunnell, 9 Littles Lane, apartment 1R, letter in opposition. 8H, James Thompson, letter in opposition. And 8G, Randall Cole and Patricia Purcell, 5 Littles Lane, letter in opposition. So moved on those, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Could you amend your motion to add there's late communications?
I was going to add them separately. My intention was to add those separately.
Thank you, sorry, okay.
As late communications.
Apologize, okay. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive late communication 1 from Joan Selesky, who was the founder of the original Peabody Downtown Action Team. Late communication 2 from Antonio Alfonso from 6 Park Street in opposition to this permit. Late communication 3 from Jeanette and Peter McGinn in opposition to this extension. Late communication number 4 from Belkis Williams, which we heard from tonight at 6 Park Street, apartment number 1. So move, Mr. President.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Council. On your advice, we recessed this hearing 2 weeks ago, and I'm glad that we did. After that recess, I had a chance to reflect and think about the comments of my co-councilors and actually review the meeting with my own family just to see, where there could have been some misunderstanding there. I guess maybe through the rapid succession of going through the each condition that, that could have been misconstrued, but that wasn't my intention, certainly. I think my intention was to give my opinion and open this up to the council for their opinions, whereas this is Ward 2, which unfortunately is without their representation right now, and we as a council need to stand together and represent the residents of Ward 2 on behalf of Councilor McGinn, who did have to recuse himself, and we also need to take into account the businesses, which I think is what we're making every effort to do. So, a couple of things, and I don't want to get into a back and forth, but I do want to say that as a Ward 1 council for 4 years, I did walk for every special permit that came before me. I walked every neighborhood, and you won't find a resident in Ward 1 to say otherwise. So that is my habit. That is what I always do. I make no apologies for that. I make no apologies for stating to Ms. Narkis that is my concern is the downtown businesses and the residents. That is entirely my concern as a city councilor. And I think that, we're not going to compare who it means more to or what, but it certainly is a thought in my mind with almost everything that we do in this city. So I'll move along to, after last week's meeting, Sarah was actually the first to reach out to me. And she reached out to me and gave me 3 dates that we could possibly meet, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, following that meeting. Monday I had some prior appointments. Tuesday was primary day, so we made it for Wednesday. I met with her and her attorney, Councilor Kelty, and typically I don't know if I would feel comfortable doing that because Jack is known in the city. I felt comfortable. I think it's something that this council may need to address in the near future about representation for us as councilors to be careful, but I'll get into that at another time. Sat down with Sarah and Jack. We talked about, I don't want to say that the meeting was entirely good. It was about an hour and a half. There was, it was contentious at times because I was negotiating on behalf of what I thought was the best thing for the residents. Ultimately, at the end of an hour and a half to 2 hour meeting, I didn't hold anything close to the vest. I heard what Sarah said about helping her business succeed. I felt that maybe I was making a mistake, but I made an offer to her, and I said, I haven't had a chance to speak to the residents about it, but I feel as though we could do Thursday evening till extend it till 11 p.m. With the extension of the trucks in the rear of the building till midnight. And I'm still not sure if that was the right decision. I also went on and said, I also heard that you need that hour for brunches, and I can understand that. For a 10 a.m. brunch, you would need a little time to set up. So I said, I'll extend that hour from the 9 a.m. restriction on trucks in the rear of the building to 8 a.m. I made both those offers at the same time. Ms. Narkis accepted both those offers. Her attorney accepted both those offers. We called an end to that meeting at that point. I did tell Ms. Narkis my intention was to walk the neighborhood the next day, and I think that this council should be aware, because maybe that they're all, it was previously mentioned, when notices to abutters go out, we had rectified this years ago with condominiums, where originally they went to a management company and none of the condominium owners got direct letters. A few years ago, Tim Spanos rectified that, and they now do go out directly to condominium owners. They still do not go out directly to apartment dwellers. So these, when I looked at the abutters list, I realized that it went to all the management companies and none of the abutters directly. I thought it would be prudent for me to actually go to the neighborhood. I extended that offer to Sarah and her attorney to come with me. I said I will not give an opinion. I said I will just let them know that there is a hearing on this matter, if they're for or against an extension of hours, or if they have no issue. I talked to several dozen people while I was down there. I did have the help of a young lady that volunteered to help me interpret. It's a very very high concentration of Hispanic-speaking people. I also ran into some Albanian folks and some Russian folks who I was unable to fully converse with. But it's a great neighborhood. It's a melting pot. It really is a different neighborhood. And I'm ashamed to say I had never been back there. It was really my first time kind of walking around those streets. So I spoke to Belkis Williams, who, a woman out by the Walgreens, actually brought me to Belkis's house when the translator told her why I was there. So I went to Belkis's house. She introduced me to her father, who was an elderly gentleman, sickly, and she explained that the noise was it was a very high level of noise, in that her father had difficulty sleeping at times, and that I shouldn't allow this. And I said, well, you really need to come and speak. I can't speak on your behalf. It's better coming from you. And I did that with a lot of people, some that actually said there were no issues. I spoke to a gentleman named Diego who said, I have no issues with it at all. I spoke to Melvis Najunkang, who had no comment either way about this. I spoke to Deb Ferrara that night, who obviously was against. I spoke to Johann Jasuti, who said it was loud at night, and he gave no opinions on the change of hours other than saying that it was loud. I did ask if anybody had interest in attending this meeting. Not many people did, and I talked to a business owner at the end of that day, at the end of the walk, which is a couple hours, and the business owner on Main Street said, she was a Portuguese woman, and she said, you need to advocate for those people back there. She said, they are not going to come to a council meeting. She said, they are not going to write letters. They kind of just want to mind their business and go under the radar. And I was surprised to see the amount of people that did show up. But if the amount of people that I spoke to showed up, it would have been significantly more. Again, I make no apologies for knocking on those doors or introducing myself to those residents. The only representation that those people have there, because I did look for an advocate, a Spanish advocate that might be able to help me in the city, and shamefully enough, we don't have one. We have a very large Portuguese and Spanish community. I looked, and I thought, who is the advocate? And the advocate is Peter McGinn, and unfortunately, Pete McGinn can't defend his neighborhood in this case. I will gladly do that for these people. So we can try to spin this, that we're anti-business, and honestly, there couldn't be anything further from the truth. There isn't a person here, as we went through, as Matt Moak went through all the businesses in downtown Peabody and the names, and everybody in this room supported every single one of them. Everyone, including Olio, who came to us in 2018, emphatically and overwhelmingly. And then, a little bothersome to me, Ms. Narkis made a comment that we were falling over ourselves to thank Mr. Greeley. Two councilors said congratulations to Mr. Greeley. I believe it was Councilor Gould and Councilor Manning. Were they falling over each other? I didn't see it. I thought they just extended some niceties. But there's a narrative trying to be spun here, and that's not the narrative. I'm sorry that I care. I'm sorry that I care about the neighborhood. I care about the people that live here. If you want to paint me as anti-business, paint away. I'm pro-resident, 100%, and I will remain that way. I will go on to I explained to you that many of these people were unaware of the special permit application, so we kind of went over that. But here's why we're here tonight. We're here because Olio is a different type of business, and I credit Saranac for that. It's my apologies. Saranac does have a very original business, and with that original business comes some strange things that we've never dealt with. It comes with, let me put it to you plainly, it's an empty building. It's a beautiful empty building, and I mean no disrespect to you, but it's an empty building. And you can interject through the chair if you'd like to correct me, because I'm not 100% positive on your business, but we've gone over it a few times, so I think I have it. There's no kitchen in the building. There are a few tables and chairs that are not generally used in your average function. There's a prep room there, but everything is done outside the property. Everything. The catering is done outside. The tables and chairs are brought in the beginning of the event and out at the end of the event. Decorations in at the beginning of the event, out at the end of the event. Bar and liquor in at the beginning, out at the end. It's an unusual setup. And hence, the question keeps arising, why so many different sets of hours of operation? And I addressed this in the first hearing. We have cooking outside, which I can't find anywhere in the city of Peabody, feet from neighbors' front doors. We have loading and unloading at what I think are reasonable hours, 11 p.m. on work nights and 1 a.m. on weekends. I get up at 4:30 in the morning on a good day, for most days, and 11 p.m. with a truck backing up in front of my house or anybody's house here. I mentioned it in the last meeting. We wouldn't accept it in any neighborhood. We wouldn't accept it in Ward 6. We would be crucified if we did it in Ward 6, Ward 5, anywhere else in this city. And yet, everybody, I don't want to say everybody, some people seem to be okay because these are the unseen people. These are the people that we don't see every day walking down, Linfield Street, Lowell Street. This is a neighborhood we don't really go to very much. But again, I'm disheartened that standing up for the residents is somehow spun as wrong. I will stand up for the residents morning, noon, and night. This is my 6th year on the council. I do it every single time. I'm really bothered by the fact that I have to justify sticking up for the residents. If we were talking about a typical fundraiser, function. If we were talking about a typical function, we wouldn't even be here tonight. If this was like a Spinelli's or some function hall where everything took place in the building, fine, you want to stay open until 11 o'clock, stay open until 11 o'clock. We wouldn't need to address pickups and deliveries. It's done the next day at function halls like Spinelli's. There was some really there was maybe my fault, maybe I wasn't clear enough at the first meeting. I did get a call from a couple of residents that said, hey, why would you be against this? And I said, you do know that, the cooking and everything takes place. And, oh, no, I thought it was a function hall where everything was inside. I said, no, there's no kitchen. One of the other things I mentioned to Sarah at our meeting was, what about like a set of double doors in the back to maybe mitigate some of the sound? And she said, no, I don't want to do that. And her attorney said, well, is that a financial reason? And she said, no, it would be too difficult for my staff to deal with a double set of doors, which would be an attempt at holding in some of the sound in the rear. I said to Sarah, why can't you use the front of the building? I said, there's no restriction anywhere in this permit that says you can't load and unload at the front of that building where there is a loading dock provided by the city of Peabody, where there is an elevator at the front, 25 or so stairs in the front. No restriction at all anywhere in this permit. It can be done. She said, it's impossible. And I said, impossible, Sarah? I said, it's, impossible is a very tough word to use here. I said, because I would venture to say that I could carry tables and chairs up those steps or in that elevator, and I'll give it a shot if you want. It could be done. It's not impossible. It's called working with the neighborhood. I've worked with countless, I've probably done 40 of these permits you all have. We've worked with business owners that have made sacrifices to deal with neighbors, from the size of trees to time lights go off and I've never seen anything like this. I walked out of there on a Wednesday with a deal in place, happy that I listened to my co-counselors. I was able to negotiate something that I thought could work with the neighbors. Turns out some of them weren't overly happy with that deal, but I still felt it needed to be done. Thursday, I get an email from Sarah that says, this is what I'm submitting to the clerk's office today. Hope you can get behind this. I can't get behind that, Sarah, and I won't get behind that for the reasons you heard here. It's working together with both of you. I want you to succeed. Believe me, you have no idea how much I want you to succeed. Not at the expense of these people's livelihoods, these people's quality of life, I should say. It keeps getting brought up that there's been no complaints. Yeah, there's no complaints with the current conditions in place. You know, is it the type of neighborhood that's going to call the police department, that's going to go down to City Hall to file a complaint? No, generally not. It's not. It's, like I said, it's a very quiet, reserved neighborhood where they generally do not want to get involved in city government at all. And I talked to most of them. You guys should give it a shot one day. Some good people, though. But with all that said, I would still support your extension, Sarah, on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. I think that's reasonable for the trucks in the rear. I would still support your extension on Thursday evening till 11 p.m. with a truck delivery or pickup in the rear of the building till midnight on a work night, but I will support it. There's no winners here. These people aren't going to be happy with me by making that statement. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee you every time they have to wake up for Friday morning, they're going to be pissed that I let that truck back there at midnight. So that's my opinion. I don't speak for any of you. I ask you to speak for yourselves. I ask you to speak for them. I ask you to help me, which is what I wanted from 2 weeks ago that got spun in a different direction. I don't represent Ward 2, or I never represented Ward 2 as a ward councilor. This is my first go-round. I am now at large and learning different sections of the city. I'm glad I got to learn this one. But their representative is not here, so it's us. So I will open it up to the council. Sorry to speak so long, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Rosendahl, you had raised your hand.
Sorry, through the president, can I just make one quick response?
Ms. Narcus, we will give you an opportunity to speak. I want to make sure that we have a dialogue with the councilors, and then you can have an opportunity to speak. The public meeting is still open, but I want to make sure councilors have an opportunity. I want to keep it away from point, counterpoint, so we can have a discussion. That's what I'm going to run at this time. Councilor Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sarah, good to see you again. I just want to go back to a couple of points that you made in your opening remarks. One of the and I was actually kind of taken aback by them, to be perfectly honest with you. When you said, that the council is kind of falling all over themselves for new business, that's exactly what I was doing when you made your presentation in 2018. I still questioned it as far as parking goes, which obviously this is not part of the discussion, but that you were gung-ho. I appreciate that. Everything that you've done ancillarily, I applaud you, whether it's the Downtown Business Coalition, whether it's part of Main Streets. Everything that you're doing is absolutely what we all want. We all want a thriving downtown. The question is how to get there. It really is. You have residents directly behind you. You have a loading zone directly in front of you. To me, that's an easy compromise. You start loading in the front, especially on Sunday mornings, or early during the day, so that way the residents aren't disturbed. I think that that's a fair compromise. One of the things that I had mentioned last time was Thursday hours. Your business is absolutely unique, but it does mirror, in a lot of respects, the black box, and that was mentioned by a resident earlier. The only hours that are more restrictive to you versus the black box is Thursday, and that was something that I had mentioned last time. I think that that's appropriate. I think giving you Thursday hours was something I was in favor of last meeting, and it's something I'm still in favor of this meeting. I was taken a little bit aback saying that we were all in opposition, because that's not the case.
the presentation that was put before us, our last meeting, was changing 17 different rules that you mutually agreed on at the time in 2018 with the ward councilor. Whether you didn't understand that you had a chance to change some of those, whatever the case, that was something that me as a councilor was an agreed upon decision that you and Councilor McGinn came upon in 2018. Now, just like Councilor Sasslaw said, back then, you can always come before the council and see if things can change. And I agree with you. Thursday, I am all in favor of changing, and I said that two weeks ago. So the last thing I'll just state, you said we weren't your target demographic, I think is what you said, for your venue space. I've actually been to 2 different events in your space, and it's amazing. It's absolutely a great space, and it's brought a different vibe and different clientele downtown, and I applaud you. I can't thank you enough for your investment downtown and for your willingness to advocate for your business and to be involved and to be part of the chamber and to be part of all of these things that you're doing. I think they're fantastic. I don't see the need of an expansion Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I just don't see it. Now, if all of a sudden downtown is absolutely bustling and it looks like Vegas in 5 years, and you say, okay, I need to keep up with everybody, okay, come back and see us. But I don't see that as something that, changing your hours on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I don't see as a necessity, and I don't see it fitting with downtown. Thursday, absolutely. Using the loading zone in the front of the building, that's carte blanche. You can do that now. The only thing that we'll have to do is just change our zoning, loading and unloading ordinance just to extend the hours, but that's something we could easily do. So again, I applaud you. I think you have done amazing things in the years that you've been downtown, and I thank you for coming before us tonight.
Can I please respond to the question about the front loading, since it's now been raised by 2 councilors, Mr. President?
Right, I was just hearing about something. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
May I please respond to just the question about the front loading, since it's been raised by 2 councilors?
Once again, we're going to certainly give you ample opportunity. Public hearing is still open. Yes, please respond on that, and don't feel like you can't comment, you won't have an opportunity. But yeah, please, I guess, address the concern, or I guess the question about front loading.
Sure, yeah.
Sure. So we do not have an elevator in our building. I just wanted to clarify, because Councilor Turco referred to an elevator. So the only way to get upstairs with anything in terms of equipment, and our event space is on the 2nd floor, the only way to get up there is through a stairwell that we installed. When we bought the building 3 years ago, there was no stairwell. The only way to get up to that 2nd floor was to use the back entrance. So when I stood before you last time, the only way to be in my event space was to come in through the rear. We put in that front stairwell in order for guests to be able to walk up that large flight of stairs, but there's no ability to load in through the front, unfortunately. That's just the nature of this old building. This is how we retrofit an old building to bring it back to a former use. It's impossible to be able to load in through the front.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilor Charest had his hand up, and then Councilor Gould, and then Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, Sarah, you said something just now, and I'm kind of not understanding. You have no elevator in your building, so anyone in a wheelchair cannot come into the main entrance?
We have an ADA lift. It's not allowed to be used for equipment. It's not an elevator, it's a lift. It's not like this elevator with a shaft and an elevator room. It's nothing like that.
Is this a platform?
Correct.
Okay, for me understanding that. Sarah, I again, like other councilors, I was taken back a little bit by your statement today. And I was actually not happy that we weren't going to continue the meeting or able to get through the meeting last time. There was, as the councilor says, it was a late night, and I think a lot of minds were getting mushed at that point in time, and it was probably best. But it also gave me an opportunity to kind of really think back about things that were being said and operation-wise and things of that nature. And I had an opportunity to speak to different vendors. As you know, I'm in that field, right? About the, mainly unloading of breaking down hours. And the rental business of tables and chairs, linen, bar service. I said table, chairs, and glassware, right, that would have to be taken out. And I asked that if it's a late night like that, would you come back to pick it up? And most of them all said no, we would make arrangements to pick it up in the next morning. And I'm assuming you have a list of authorized vendors that you use, or preferred vendors. You don't have to answer, but I'm assuming that you do. And those will be, certainly on the weekend, most likely dropping off stuff for the next event and picking up the dirty linens or tables that's not needed, or extra tables and chairs that is needed. So there would be an operation of coming back and forth, picking up and dropping off. I thought that was an opportunity that you wouldn't have to get that done at 1 o'clock in the morning, because I'm not too sure of any, I haven't heard of any vendor that would willing to come back after leaving it and picking it up at tables and chairs and glassware and linen at that time. A couple of them said, well, they would have to pay a premium price if I had to come back to pick it up, or if my company had to come back to pick it up. So with just that being said, but the other thing I'm just going to go back to tonight is Councilor Rosendahl said that you know that none of us are in your targeted. Well, guess what? I'm planning a wedding. I'm going through all this right now. So I guess maybe you missed the target here, but I do know. I have been talking to them. Besides that, for years, I was participating in those as those vendors. So I get it. The other thing that struck me is that, again, about the bending over backwards and things like that, I got to tell you, I remember the spot I was when you called me the first time. I actually pulled over. I was going to get gas on Route 1, right by Red's Tavern there, and I pulled over to the side because I wanted to give you my utmost attention, because I thought what you were doing was something marvelous, something that Peabody has never done before. It was before the black box. It was something neat. And I have been to your facilities for a couple of events. And I noticed around, and I looked around then, and I thought about it now. And tell me if I'm incorrect. Maybe you've changed. You have those wonderful wood ceilings exposed, right? You have a blank surface that you can do everything in different with lights and curtains with the cement walls, right? Big open space where noise and sound can travel like it is in this hallway. But one thing I do know, it can escape. It can escape through the beams. It can penetrate the cement walls. And when you're in running your event, most likely you're not down the street. So you may not be aware that how that noise is escaping. So that was that one. I spoke to the mayor after he spoke, I don't know if he's still here, a couple weeks ago. I said, I want to understand what you were saying, because I wasn't quite clear. He goes, I wanted them to know that we as government and as mayor has done a lot for the businesses downtown, including yours, which we all, again, embraced, including myself. I was happy. There was a different thing coming in. I believe you got a grant loan from the city, the mayor mentioned to me, to help you to get up and going. So when you said tonight that we didn't bend over back, fall over praising you and stuff like that, I felt bad because I thought I did. I thought I did. And I will continue tonight to praise what you do. But with that does come some consequences, as we heard from some of the neighbors. I am a ward counselor. My primary goal and duty is to make sure I speak and work for my residents of Ward 4. Second comes the city. His residents is homeowners, renters, businesses. You got it. You got everything, right? Today I actually helped out a mom who was visiting her daughter in my ward. She wasn't in my ward, but I still did some work for her. And I know you're probably getting tired because I see your body language and listening to me. But one thing what happened to me last week, and I think to some of these other counselors, I felt like I was getting a lecture. I heard insults. And you know what? Each and every one of these counselors I respect. They may not agree with me, or I may not agree with them. Most times, any times, whatever. But I respect them. And I felt what happened 2 weeks ago. We were being, like John said, it was being spun. I'm not anti-business. I spend a lot of time downtown. I went to a lot of events downtown. I love the pop-up pubs, the winter pubs, the Halloween on Main Street, everything. We all do that. I'm not any special than anybody else. But the way it was said, it made me feel like I'm anti. And I know in my heart I'm not, because I know what I've done. I heard somebody who was supporting you, and you have no control over this. No control over this. But it was said the Good Old Boys Network. Good Old Boys. I've been on the council for 6 years. I ain't good old boys. Okay? They have a sleepover. Tom was going to bring the ice cream. I just don't think that was necessary, and I think it's a bad description of what this council is. That's not what it is. We do want to help you, but we do have to listen to the residents of what they're saying. Everyone had their time to speak, and no one wanted to interrupt. No one did. But again, I have to say that some of the things that were said tonight, some of the things that were said a couple weeks ago, and made me check on things that was going on. What does happen? I didn't realize you had a metal ramp. And I know those metal ramps, anyone who walks up on them knows they make a lot of noise. Pushing a rack with glasses and plates, a rack of chairs, metal chairs and tables, it makes a lot of noise. So I want you to succeed. I think that's obvious from everybody. Times if you see me in your plays, I know we've talked, okay? I am a target customer because I have now this one wedding. It's not going to happen in Massachusetts, but try to get her here. But I do have another daughter who'll be someday getting married, and she is never leaving Peabody. So, again, I think I was open-minded, wasn't closed in the time we started. I've always praised you. Best of luck. And I just hope whoever's covering it doesn't spin it that we're an anti-business, because that's the last thing we are. Or I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Torres. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, Ms. Narkis. How are you? We called a recess 2 weeks ago, and during that recess time, you and I were just having a light conversation, and I asked what would it take, and you said, I'd love Thursday. And may not have been those exact words, but that was the gist of the conversation, was if I could get Thursday and if I could get an extra hour on Sunday, and I said, let me see what we can do. talked to Councilor Turco. Councilor Turco's had a game plan about meeting with you, and the proposal of giving you Thursday and an hour on Sunday was discussed, and I was surprised it was agreed upon. You don't have to answer, but why did that not entice you to accept the change of conditions? Was there a reason? Sure, please. Through you.
Feel free to answer, and I just ask everyone, please try to keep the microphones close to your mouth so that not only the people here can hear you, but then people listening on
Through you, Mr.
Zoom.
President, if I can.
Yeah, please respond. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, Councilor Gould, I was very interested in accepting Councilor Turco's offer of extending our operating hours on Thursday nights. And it's only by 30 minutes. It's not like a really big deal. But that, I'll take it. And extending our unloading hours and loading hours on Sunday morning. Right. Again, it's only 1 hour, but it would be helpful. But my primary goal in coming before the council to start was always to simplify the hours. And so in doing so, I asked and talked to Councilor Turco about saying it doesn't make sense for me to have cleanup hours in which I'm allowed to clean up from events, but I can't put things in the car. So like I hear what Councilor Charest is saying about tables and chairs, and 9 out of 10 times the tables and chairs that come in and out of the building are dropped off between that. We always have to give a window. Yep. Like he's saying, people don't want to come back at 1 in the morning for tables and chairs. They usually get dropped off between 9 and noon on the day of the event and picked up between 9 and noon the next day. But what has to leave the property the night of an event is the same at pretty much most venues. You're talking about flowers, you're talking about gifts. In the scenario of my venue, you're talking about alcohol, as Councilor Melville will be able to point out, the 12C licenses that the caterers have require that they transport the alcohol. So there are things that have to leave the property at night. So I was simply saying, I understand, I'm open to a discussion. I always have been to say, well, let's not adjust the operating hours on Sunday through Wednesday nights, but the point of coming here was to simplify. So then I had a different set of hours for Sunday and a different one for Monday through Wednesday, different for Thursday, and different from Friday and Saturday. So it wasn't simplifying, and I still had 4 sets of hours.
So Mr. President, if I may, in regards to the change that you would like to see, correct me if I'm wrong, if we could go item by item, but you'd like to move Sundays from 7 a.m. to 10:30. It's currently 7 a.m. to 10:30 to 9 a.m. to 11.
Correct.
Just so everybody knows and everybody in the public knows what we're talking about.
I've suggested to push back my operating hour from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. to accommodate the request to set up and cleanup hours be 1 hour before and after my operating hours, to keep it extremely simple as I'm communicating to the many players that I'm working with.
So that would change Monday or Sunday through Saturday, if we could group the 7 hours. Actually, excuse me, Sunday through Thursday. That would mean we'd go Sunday 9 a.m. to 11, and we'd go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Is that what you're suggesting?
That was my request for operating hours.
And then Friday and Saturday, 7 a.m. to midnight.
Yes, those are the hours I already have, and I don't request a change.
There's no change there, correct. In the proposed event setup, you'd like to have it an hour before the operation is open, so that would be 6 a.m.?
That's what we're currently allowed, so I'm suggesting no change.
And that would change, or excuse me, the proposal for event breakdown would be 1 hour after the event is over. It would bring us to midnight.
That's correct. The opportunity to go till midnight, as I addressed, that's not always how it goes. But
yep, thank you. And currently, you have an hour and a half before and after, so that is exactly the setup and breakdown hours do not change.
They do, because what I'm suggesting is that the setup and breakdown hours need to be combined with the loading and unloading hours. So it's a change. It is a small change there.
Can you repeat that, please?
Of course, yes. So the setup and breakdown hours that I currently have are an hour and a half before and an hour and a half after my events. So technically, I am already allowed to break down an event until midnight on a Monday night. However, I can't put the flowers in Aunt Sue's car because she can't pull around the back because so I can't put the stuff in her car. I can't unload the alcohol, which is required by law. So I'm saying that the hours they don't make sense to have two separate sets there for the logistics of this operation.
Please be more specific. Because there's so many hours we're talking about.
Sure.
Can you repeat that?
Sure, they're addressed on my original permit as number 3.
Yeah.
That third set of hours there.
Excuse me, there will be no trucks and no loading or unloading of vehicles in the rear of the building between hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. Saturday, and then so on and so forth. Okay.
Correct, right. So I'm suggesting that those hours, the rear loading and unloading of vehicles, needs to match with setup and cleanup for my operation. You can see they're separated on there.
Yeah. Hours of operation, event setup, and cleanup is 1 hour before and 1 hour after. And that doesn't change the end time, because you were breaking down at 10:30, but you had an hour and a half to clean up.
Right, currently I have an hour and a half to clean up, but I have to remove all vehicles at 11, and so I have to stop cleaning up at 11. I recognize it's confusing. I fully recognize it. I find that a lot of people are confused. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here. I'll defer for this moment, Mr. President. I may come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Manning Martin, and then Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank my colleague, Councilor Gould, for changing the tone and the direction of this meeting. I think we're headed in a better direction that looks like we're heading towards a compromise, which is why we recessed at the last meeting in hopes that we would come back and compromise. And I'm hopeful that we can. So I think we're headed in the right direction. I also think another reason why we need to compromise is that I do feel, I'm not pointing any fingers, it doesn't do any good, get personal up here, but I do think some misjudgments were made throughout this process, so I do feel that we're heading towards an appeal, and I don't think it's an appeal we're going to win. It reminds me of the AAA appeal, that the appeal went to the judge remanded it back to this council, indicating that we had made some misjudgments and wanted us to address them and correct them, yet instead this council chose to dig their heels in again, and therefore the appeal was a slam dunk, and that petitioner won their appeal, and we didn't get any of the conditions, and that's where I see this one going. I think this is a slam dunk. And that was all leading up to this evening. And then just tonight, we might have added another rub, another wrinkle, by the petitioner that just came up for 2 Washington Street, had a condition number 5, that all the loading and unloading was to be done on property, and there were no hours, no confusing hours of when you can do this, when you can do that, what day you can do this, what day you can do that. We didn't do that to the petition that was just up here for a special permit. We gave them blanket, loading and unloading, just cannot be done on Washington and Main Street. But what we've done here now is we're telling her to do it, to do the loading on Main Street. We're also saying it's so easy we can just change our loading ordinance. Well, those ordinances are there for a reason. They're the police, it's by traffic design for safety and for traffic flow safety, and you can't just have huge trucks dropping off at any time on Main Street. So one petitioner, we say, do whatever you want, do it on your own property at any time you want, just stay off Main Street, stay off Washington Street. For her, we're telling her, get out of your own property, and if you do go on your own property to load and unload, you have to do it for these specific times, and or load and unload on Main Street. Okay, so that's another major rub that we just created for ourselves, for her to appeal.
Excuse me, Councilman Martin, I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to just, if we can keep to this particular permit hearing rather than applying other things that are not germane to this hearing and this applicant. Thank you.
Okay, well, if your opinion is my hope to keep us out of yet another losing lawsuit is not germane. I would take issue with that, and I think a lot of the taxpayers in the city would, but I will move on. So it appears to me that Councilor Gould is nibbling around the edges of getting something that this petitioner may be able to live with and keep us out of court. And that's all I'm hoping to do. So this is a loser all day long. We never win in land court. This is, you know, and I want to defer back to, I can defer my time back if you're ready, Councilor Gould. All ears of what you've figured out there with your abacus of figuring out the hours and what we can do. Because it's clear to me that in order for this business to succeed, you have to be able to explain to your vendors what they can and can't do. And we need to work to simplify that, because this is the second meeting that we've had and everybody's confused with how it's presented. There's 4 different hours. Everybody's confused. I've looked at it 10 times. And I'm hoping that we can clarify it to help her, to help the vendors, to help the business. And again, move forward, stick a fork in this thing, and stay out of court. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Martin. Now go to Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Sarah. I apologize I have to join remotely this evening, but just did have a couple quick questions and clarification issues that I was hoping we could discuss. I fully appreciate, a lot of the comments that you made regarding being a successful entrepreneur, which you absolutely are. And I think great entrepreneurs demonstrate flexibility within a framework. And certainly I think what Councilor Manning Martin alluded to is hopefully we're getting to something close here that is a framework that is viable for everyone to work under. In terms of being able to support businesses, I think the best thing we can do as a city council is to, quite frankly, put our money where our mouth is in terms of supporting a business. And that is in making sure that we do everything to make it economically viable. This is a space that I'm intimately familiar with. I think you understand what my background is. And, I've worked in events for a very long time. Candidly, I think your biggest market opportunity is your Thursday and your Sunday, which you've outlined. Monday through Wednesday are pretty minimal for event bookings. And for those that would require something beyond the hours that you currently have, in my experience, I just don't see a tremendous market for that. So if I was working with you, I wouldn't see that would be where the time would be best spent to put your allocation resources to try to book more revenue there. Now, I think you do have a good point for missed opportunities on Thursday, missed opportunities potentially you had mentioned at the last meeting, brunch opportunities and things like that on Sunday. Being the case, I do think what you had discussed in terms of hours and hoping to simplify, what my suggestion would be is pretty similar actually to, it seems like what you may have discussed with Councilor Turco. I think, instead of looking at it as 4 different sets of hours, I think you look at it as 1 set of hours with different designations based on the day. I think we have to candidly understand that people need to get to work, that there's kids that need to get to school, and that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we want to provide minimal interruptions later in the evening. And unfortunately, the type of business that you provide requires that customization. I think that's made you quite successful, but it also requires you to do all the loadouts and that sort of thing. So by not changing those hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think you minimize any interruptions to the neighborhood. Realizing that Thursday is a very desirable night for, I think you had mentioned this at the last meeting, for nonprofit functions, for local galas and things like that. Extending that to what would similarly be in accordance with what you discussed with Councilor Turco, I think makes sense, and that's something that I could support. Again, I don't know that some of the neighbors are going to be happy, but I understand from a business perspective why that would be advantageous. Friday and Saturday you want to leave alone, and then Sunday, I think if you back up an hour to give you the opportunity to set up for brunch, and you extend that evening, I think that kind of covers everything. I don't want to minimize, all the efforts that you're putting in, but I think, and I don't want to minimize any of the comments from the other counselors, but I think it would really behoove us to just nail down what these hours look like. What can you live with? How can we move forward and just kind of be done with this without kind of dragging this on anymore? I think you have a wonderful business. I think you're doing a great job. I'm very proud to know that you're in our community and that you're providing such amazing services. I understand that you've had some frustrations, but you already have business hours for the holidays. You already have business hours for the weekends that you like. I look at this and candidly, it looks like Sunday and Thursday are really the sticking points. So if we can settle Sunday and Thursday, I'd love to just kind of get some feedback from our fellow counselors and just move on. So if we're talking about the Sunday and Thursday hours, I'd be happy to discuss. I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're not going to raise a significant amount of revenue. I go to events almost every night of the week, and from Peabody to Boston, and nothing's going to go that late Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that would require you to change your hours on those particular nights. Thursday and Sunday, I think you get a good case. Everything else, I think you're already fine leaving it as is. So that's the discussion I'd like to have. I apologize for being so candid, but I'm hoping that maybe we can wrap this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Walton. Council Gould, Council Sasslaw had his hands up. Would you defer to him, or do you want to make a motion, or what? I guess I want to make sure people are heard.
I don't want to lose my thoughts, if I could.
Go ahead, Council Gould, then Council Sasslaw.
To kind of segue off of Councilor Welton, thank you, Councilor Welton, the points he was making. Ms. Narkis, life is one big negotiation, and don't I know it, having been married for 39 years. Every day, my wife and I negotiate. She usually wins, but are you willing to negotiate it all from, you hear the feeling amongst the council about Thursdays and Sundays. I think we overwhelmingly would agree to that, but I'm not so sure you'd get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if it came to a vote. So are you willing to negotiate and come up with some reasonable concession that would give you the Thursday and Sunday items? Please.
Sure, just in respect to our operating hours, I would be agreeable to that. I think that there's three critical pieces. Councilor Welton touched on two of them.
Okay.
So Thursday nights, we're talking about extending our operation by 30 minutes. Just to be clear, it's a very small increase. And Sunday, we're talking about not extending our operation at all, actually scaling back the operation from 7 a.m. when we're allowed to start events now to 9 a.m. For operating.
Operating.
But the third piece of this that is essential and why I'm here is to simplify these hours, is to say I need 1 hour before and after my operating hours in order to set up, clean up, load, and unload.
Through you, Mr. President, if I may. I don't think that is an issue because you had an hour and a half.
I don't. I have an hour and a half to clean up, but I have a third. On bullet number 3, I have a fourth set of hours during which I'm allowed to park behind my building. I do, to the President, I did make a chart. I don't know if I can distribute it. It's the same, it would be late communication perhaps, but it's the same content that was in my proposal, just to show in a visual format. I found in talking to several folks this week that it was extremely confusing.
Mr. President, if I can make a motion to accept communication?
I guess point of information, we have communication 8N, which actually contained your proposed. Okay, so we have that in front of us. Is something you have different than that? I just want to make sure.
No, it's just a visual representation
of the same. I'm fine. I just want to make sure we're all looking at the same documents. So we need a motion to accept late communication.
As Councilor, sorry.
Councilor Gould, would you make a motion to accept late communication?
So moved, Mr. President.
On the motion, any discussion? I'm going to just give a moment. We'll do a roll call vote, but I want to make sure Councilman Martin get back to her chair. On the roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
So if I could just explain what's happening here, it's exactly the same as what was in the public agenda. I've just put it in a chart format. And the items that are highlighted in red are the proposed change to the new times, and the items that are bolded are the items that are being changed. So, and again, as you started off asking me, Councilor Gould, am I open to some negotiation here? I absolutely am. But as you can see, if we go through this, the changes I'm asking for are so incredibly small in terms of number of minutes. I'm open to not modifying my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night hours. I have proposed 11, but we currently have 10:30. That's okay with me.
Thank you, Ms. Nakas. If I may, Mr. President, through you to Councilor Turco. Councilor Turco, I don't want, this was your, you did a lot of hard work and you've done a lot of the legwork that brings us to where we are tonight. My head's going to explode because of the different charts and language and hours and everything. So, Councilor Turco, do you want to take it from here and do specific hours by day?
If I could just, Councilor Turco, do you need, like, does anyone need should we take a 5-minute recess, just given the time, just?
Yeah, can I take a 10-minute recess?
We'll take a 10-minute recess. We're now back in session. At this time, I'd like to, Councilor Turco, would you like to speak? I want to make sure that any other council, if they want to speak at this time, I want to make sure we have not closed the public hearing if they want to. And certainly we may give Ms. Narcus an opportunity to speak. Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one point I wanted to make for the record that, or I'll ask the question to Ms. Narcus through you, Mr. Chairman. Anywhere in your permit, do you have hours for trash collection, trash pickup, or trash collection anywhere?
We don't require those hours.
Okay, you don't have anything on your permit for trash pickup?
No, you have my permit in front of you. There's nothing.
No, I asked that question for a reason. It's because Councilor Manning had mentioned that we didn't put pickup and delivery hours on Ed Greeley's, but I wanted to make the point that each permit is different. So whereas he did have trash delivery hours on his, you don't have them on yours. Every special permit is different, so just a different case. So for the record, because Councilor Manning Martin mentioned litigation, I wanted to mention that there were several differences that Mr. Greeley has on his permit that you do not have on yours. But as far as the discussion with the hours, I said this to the mayor yesterday, I'll say it to the council today. I wasn't in this to go in and try to hold something back and then bargain something later. I went in and maybe it was wrong, you know, I just laid it out on the table and said, this is what I have. I have Sunday morning that I can support. I have Thursday night, because those are the things that you mentioned. And I realized that you mentioned consolidating your hours. It's very simple to present, and Councilor Kelty and yourself and I discussed this. When somebody wants to have a function at your facility on September 30th, you simply go down the list and say, September 30th is such and such a day. You can have your function because I'm open till 11 p.m. I have to tell my caterer that he has to have his truck off-site by, 10 p.m. or whatever it is that night. How hard is this? This isn't really that difficult. We're arguing, there's an entire city council here nitpicking over, half hour there, when we gave you exactly what you wanted. I met with you, I gave you 100%. Councilor Gould is correct. He called me and he said, John, I think she just wants Thursday night. I think that would really be helpful to her business. Fine. There was no second, thought on it. Fine, that's it. And now we're looking to compromise even more. We did this 6 months ago with the hours for holidays that were never mentioned in the first hearing, but the council took one and said, you know what, whether you forgot to mention them or however they weren't mentioned, but they were never mentioned to me. And we made those changes for you. And now we're here again. We gave you exactly what you wanted a third time, being Thursday and Sunday, and it's not enough. So I will support the Thursday and the Sunday. I cannot support against what you heard these residents say. I think that Thursday at midnight is pretty significant to me. So I'm not sure why anybody thinks that we didn't just negotiate a very good deal with Ms. Narcus. And I'm not overly concerned about litigation at all. We do have 3 city attorneys, and I'm sure they can handle this very well. But thank you. That's I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Councilor Turco, I just want to give, just for this point, I just want to give Ms. Narcus, do you want to say anything further before we close the public hearing?
Mr. President, there's a motion on the floor. My apologies. So I'll withdraw the motion.
Apologies. Thank you. I apologize. The motion's been removed. Ms. Narcus, do you want to speak before the public hearing is closed?
Just in response to what Councilor Turco has just recently stated is that I don't find these hours simple to follow. I don't think anyone in this room finds them easy to follow. No one I've talked to over the last few weeks about this has found them simple to follow, and I am a rule follower. I want to follow my permit to the letter, and that's what I do. And so I'm stood here to ask for what I need to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to close the public hearing.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the changes, move to approve the original conditions from the February 22nd, 2018 special permit hearing for Olio function facility at 43 Main Street with the following changes to condition number 1. Condition number 1, hours of operation for events and/or business administration. A, Sunday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., Thursday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., with back deck closed and outdoor cooking and relating cleanup to cease by 8 p.m. B, Friday and Saturday, 7 a.m. to midnight, with back deck closed and outdoor cooking and related cleanup to cease by 10 p.m. C, Saturday hours of operation to be utilized for Sundays of Memorial Day, Labor Day, and Columbus Day weekends. D, Saturday hours of operations plus 1 hour may be utilized for New Year's Eve, regardless of what day of the week that New Year's Eve falls. And the addition of the holiday hours is because they're not on the original permit. We added those later on. The second change would be to condition number 3, which states there will be no trucks and no loading or unloading vehicles to the rear of the building between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. Saturday, 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. Sunday, and between the hours of 11 p.m. Sunday through Wednesday and 6 a.m. Monday through Thursday, and between the hours of midnight Thursday and 6 a.m. Friday. Trucks that are not able to make a 3-point turn on the property to exit the property shall not be permitted in the rear of the building at any time and shall utilize the Main Street loading zone only. 3A, Sunday truck hours and loading and unloading hours shall apply for Memorial Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, and New Year's Day. And no changes per Ms. Narcis's recent conversation with me to conditions 4 through 17, no requested changes. So moved.
You've heard the motion from Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Councilor Gould and then Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Turco, did you change the Thursday and Sunday hours?
I did. Through you, Mr. President, my apologies to Councilor Gould. Yes, in the condition number 1, we have changed Thursday under, let me find it here. Thursday would be 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. listed in condition number 1. And I have these for the clerk if she needs them. And on condition number 3, we extended Thursday by 1 hour for trucks to be available to midnight in the rear of the building. And we also gave Ms. Narcis Sunday morning 8 a.m. start time for trucks in the rear of the building so that she could do the brunches.
Thank you.
So that's all listed in there.
Thank you, Councilor Turco, through you, Mr. President. So the 3 changes that we did not grant was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Correct. There were no changes on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Councilor Sasslaw?
Yes, I just had one question through you to Councilor Turco on the letter received, the late communications received from the McGinns this evening on condition 13. They actually did agree to, they did suggest to change the condition. The biggest thing about the condition is that the rear doors may be used on exception basis for special entrance of, for example, bride and groom. They've agreed to that, the McGinns actually, so I was wondering if you could include that change as they are amenable to that.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I was 100% in favor of that. Also, on that Wednesday when I met with Councilor Kelty and Sarah, I said, now, once we had gotten the conditions 1, 2, and 3 set, I said, now, what do we want to do with 4 through 17? And she said, I want no discussion on 4 through 17. And I said a second time, you know, I'd like to go over these for the council. And she said, I want no changes to items 4 through 17. So again, I'll grant that request to Ms. Narcis that she wants no changes to items 4 through 17. If you'd like me to, Councilor, I will. She didn't seem to be amenable. She said it's kind of a non-issue for her, that specific condition.
I think, I think it's a show of good faith, and I think that we should, as I said, we've been taking a lot of direction from the McGinns, and they said there's no issue with this, and I think that the petitioner would like to see that put in, so I would suggest that, and as you said, you would amend putting that in.
I will do that, Counsel. Let me just find the letter from the McGinns.
That's late communication 4, second page, last literally last bullet point.
Counsel, you said condition 13?
That's correct. The second bulleted point with the change in the condition to state, it's in bold.
Okay, and I'll add to this motion to change condition number 13 to the primary means of, does anybody have any issue using Councilor McGinn's suggested edit? You can edit it as you want, Councilor Sassler, if you'd like. This is just the one I'm reading off the letter from resident McGinn, which is the primary means of access and egress of event participants in and out of events shall be way of the Main Street doors. The rear doors to the building shall only be utilized by event participants as an emergency exit. The rear doors may be used as on an exception basis for a special entrance of, for example, a bride and groom. So moved, Mr. President.
You've heard the amended motion. Any discussion? On the motion, Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the clerk. Allison, a yes vote approves the change for Thursday hours and Sunday hours. Thank you.
As well as adding amending condition 13, so.
As well as conditions, yeah.
Any further discussion? Just checking, Councilor Walton. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Charist,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Congratulations. Next agenda item is hearing 4C, which is a hearing for a fortune teller's license. The clerk will please read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, September 23rd, 2021, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Ashley DeCarney, 245 Andover Street, Peabody, Mass., requesting a fortune teller's license at said 245 Andover Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with MGL Chapter 140, Section 185I, and Section 16-20.75 of the Peabody City Code. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage, or contact the City Clerk's office. Zoom information will not be available until the Friday before the meeting. Peabody City Council, Councilor Mark J. O'Neill, City Council President.
Thank you. Good evening. Could you please state your full name and address for the record?
Ashley DeCarney, 245 Andover Street.
Thank you. And can you give us a brief description of what you're trying to do with this license?
I wanted to have a business in my home to read tarot cards.
Great, thank you. Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak in favor of this application? Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak in favor of this application? On the Zoom platform, are there any participants who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand. Seeing no one at this time, are there any members of the general public who would like to speak in opposition of this application? Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak in opposition of this application? On the Zoom platform, Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Please raise your hand. Seeing no one, Councilor Matsoulis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the information to the council, just want to mention that the fortune teller's license for 245 Andover Street has been there for over 40 years, and it belonged to Mario Sabatini, who I knew very well, and the license is non-transferable. So Ashley, who's the granddaughter to Mr. Sabatini, is coming in to continue the same operation that's been going for over 40 years now. So not to confuse anybody, this is the process she had to go through. So I'm going to ask you one question I asked Mario about 40 years ago. If you took my fortune, did my fortune right now, could you tell me if I'm going to win the election next month?
Maybe, I don't know.
That's what Mario said. Okay, listen, it's pretty basic. License transfer is what it is. Nothing is changing, and most people don't even know it's there. It's not the type of business they need a dozen parking spaces. They only deal with one person at a time, and sometimes they could go a whole week without doing anybody. It's just it's a business that's been in the family for many years. I'll leave the question to the rest of the council if there's any.
Are there any members of the council who'd like to ask any questions at this time? I think Councilor Welton, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just had a quick question. I saw that what are the restrictions for the licenses that the resident has resided in the community for the last 12 months preceding the granting of the license? I just wanted to confirm that Mr. Carney has been in Peabody for the last 12 months at that address. Thank you.
That's not accurate.
What's not accurate?
I haven't been there for 12 months. I've been there longer.
Oh, yeah. No, he's saying, he's saying at least 12 months.
Yeah.
You could answer that. You've been there longer than 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's it. No further questions. I just wanted to make sure because I saw that was a restriction. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Any other councilors want to speak at this time? Hearing none, Councilor Matsoulis?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to close the public hearing at this time, please.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Matsoulis. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould? Yes. Manning Martin? Yes. Sasslaw?
Yes.
Welton?
Yes.
Charis?
Yes.
McGinn?
Yes.
Matsoulis?
Yes.
Turco? Rozignol?
Yes.
Melville?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Councilor Matsoulis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve a fortune teller's license to Ashley DeCarney, doing business at 245 Andover Street. So move. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Matsoulis. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould? Yes. Manning Martin? Sasslaw?
Yes.
Welton?
Yes.
Charis?
Yes.
McGinn?
Yes.
Matsoulis?
Yes.
Rozignol?
Yes.
Melville?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Congratulations.
Good luck, Ashley.
Congratulations.
The next item on the agenda is reports of committees, but we had to postpone or reschedule the Municipal Safety Committee scheduled for early this evening, so there's no report. And Councilor Sasslaw, you'll work with City Clerk to reschedule the hours that work for all parties when convenient. Thanks. We'll now move to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould.
No motions, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 7A and refer to finance. So moved.
Clarification, should that go to legal affairs as it's city-owned property? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're correct. Legal.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can
Thank
amend
you.
it to legal affairs.
To legal,
okay.
yep.
Okay. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yeah.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol. Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0, 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 7B and refer to finance. So moved.
This point of information, I wasn't sure. This is the Council on Aging request,
That's
7D?
B.
Oh, sorry, that's why I'm, okay.
CPC funds?
Okay, thank you. That's, okay, just, my hearing is going. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In an effort to speed things up, I'm going to, if you will allow, under suspension of the rules, motion to receive items 7D, as in dog, and 8F, as in Frank. So moved.
On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, Councilor McGinn and then Councilor Melville.
Just on 8F, I think that's going to go to legal as it's a city-owned. And then regarding...
I did refer it to legal. F, as in Frank. Yes.
I apologize, Councilor.
No problem.
So, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I had
Councilor
the
McGinn?
same question. I didn't hear legal affairs, so same.
And F went to legal. My effort to speed things up failed, sorry.
But I did like how you used the lettering. That was perfect, so thank you. So on the motion for items 8D and 8F for legal, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yeah.
Turco. Rozignol. Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On suspension of the rules, motion to receive 8D and refer us to public services, just to keep it active, Councilor Turco, whether you choose to act on it or not. I just wanted to kind of keep it an active item since it's trash barrels and rats in the parks.
Yes, and again, for my apologies on the motion, we were going to do that tonight. I just thought I knew that the Olio hearing might last a little longer, so I asked Allison to postpone that out for 2 weeks. So, Allison, could you schedule that public services for 2 weeks? Thank you.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Manning Martin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
So, Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8A. So moved.
On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 9A, all papers being in order for entertainment license renewals for 2021 for Essex County Brewing Company, 58 Pulaski Street, Gallo Nero Pizzeria, 89 Main Street, Red's Kitchen and Tavern, 131 Newbury Street. Again, all papers being in order, so moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Manning Martin. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 9B, all papers being in order for taxi driver license for James Gabriel, license number 6, Johanny Polanco, license number 7, Terry Bain, license number 8. Again, all papers being in order, so moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Manny Martin. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Yes. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manny Martin.
Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 9C, utility contractor's license for Messina Site and Utility Corp., 2 Riverside Drive, Marblehead, all papers being in order, so moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Manny Martin. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yep.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manny Martin.
Thank you. And under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 9D, a banner for Higgins Middle School PTO, 85 Perkins Street, all papers being in order, so moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Manny Martin. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Gould. Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manny Martin.
No further motions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Manny Martin. Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. I have 2 motions this evening. First motion, I'd like to make a motion to the Peabody Police Traffic Division that in the entire Rolling Hills neighborhood to increase enforcement of the traffic laws with an increased police presence relating to stopping and speeding. So move.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Sasslaw. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco. Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Sasslaw.
Yes, and also I'd like to make a motion to direct the city clerk to send out a notice regarding special permit 274 Newberry Street, which is SP 7-2017, to send the special permit holder that they are required to come before the city council as there's a requirement for a special permit amendment that they need to come before the council and fill out the appropriate paperwork. So move.
You heard the motion by Councilor Sasslaw. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Sasslaw.
That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. Councilor Walton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 motions this evening, both for the Department of Public Services. First, there is signage 20 feet from corner, no parking 20 feet from corner that was placed on Martineck. It was actually placed on the wrong side of the street, so it needs to be placed 20 feet from corner with the intersection from Lynn Street. So moved. Please remove the signage from one end of Martineck Street and put it on the other end. So moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Walton. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Walton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Secondly, I'd like to request through Department of Public Services for a sidewalk directly in front of 83 Bartholomew Street to be repaired. So moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Walton. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions. I did want to just take an opportunity to thank everyone who's reached out. We do have a COVID positive case in our household. One of my children was recently diagnosed with COVID. So I just want to thank Department of Public Health Director Sharon Cameron and her team for their incredible leadership in helping everybody get through this. And thank you for those who've reached out. I really appreciate it. Everyone's doing well here. And I'd like to encourage anybody who has any questions about vaccine availability or how to go about it to reach out to Director Sharon Cameron and encourage people to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Walton. Hopefully everyone gets healthy back in your household. Councilor Charest.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to make a motion, ask the Public Works Department to clean out the catch basins at Kuna intersection of Violet, Dyla, and Barrett, and any others that deem necessary and appropriate in that neighborhood. So move.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Charest. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Charest.
Thank you. The other motion is to ask the mayor or to allow the city clerk to send out a message a few days before November 2nd election. One of the things I heard a lot this year was that there was no reminder of election of the primary, so if asking the mayor to send out a reminder prior to November 2nd of the election. So move.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Charest. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Charest.
Yes, and finally, just to acknowledge that the city has lost a great citizen and resident of Peabody and to public service. Big Joe DeFranco, unfortunately, he passed away this week. I know most of us all know him and loved him. He was a great man, kind, and I asked for the city clerk to send a letter of condolences to his family and Maria on our behalf. So move.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Charest. On the motion, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Charest. Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 7C and refer to finance. So moved.
You've heard the motion by Council McGinn. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol. Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C. So moved.
You've heard the motion by Council McGinn. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco. Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill. Motion carries 11-0.
Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. 8B, do you want that? That's yours. Do you want that to go anyplace?
Just receive, please.
Receive.
Thank you.
Suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8B, so moved.
You've heard the motion by Counsel McGinn. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould, Manning Martin, Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton. Oh, sorry. Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas. Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Counsel McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8K and approve. This is on the motion. This is the recommendation from the clerk for in-person early voting. So moved.
You've heard the motion by Counsel McGinn. Any discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, Counsel Gould.
Allison, how's things going in preparation for, no specific issues, but are you okay with the way things are, early voting and all the things related to it?
Yep, we could set these early voting hours up. I think that should be a help and keep voter turnout on Election Day a little lower.
Okay.
But overall, hopefully we'll have a good turnout with the mail-in, the early and in-person.
And is there going to be one specific spot, or a few specific spots for early voting? I know we had one here at City Hall.
We're going to do it here at City Hall.
Okay, only?
Only.
Okay. Good.
Correct.
Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Counsel Gould. You've heard on the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please. Apologize. Counsel Welton is no longer on the Zoom platform. So all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm going to ask a question about 8L before making the motion. Refer to the committee of the whole, I would imagine. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, that would be correct. Thank you, Counsel
On the
McGinn.
suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8L and refer to the committee of the whole. So moved.
You've heard the motion by Counsel McGinn. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Counsel McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Counsel McGinn. Counsel Mitsoulas.
I have no motions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel Mitsoulas. Counsel Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few. My apologies, everybody. My first is in regards to elections to address what Councilor Charest and Councilor Gould were talking about. I'd like to do a breakdown of post-election breakdown of the primary and maybe refer that to legal affairs. I know there were a couple of issues with 5 of the schools being used. And I did run into Tim and Allison that day, and there were a couple snafus. I think you were being very nice when you told Council Gould that, everything was good. But I think we maybe need to have a discussion. And I'll leave that up to you, Allison, as to who you'd like to invite to that meeting. I'm sorry, it's your committee, Mr. Chairman. Ryan can invite, and you can advise Ryan who you'd like to invite to discuss this.
Counsel Melville, would you like to comment?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Turco. That's so part of the when we did the redistricting, Allison and I think we might have mentioned at that meeting that we were going to do in the military we call an after-action report. So things that needed improvement, things that we could sustain. So and there were some issues that we should discuss, and some of these places are being used for the first time. Some of them might have had a higher volume, but this will be the first time with early voting and mail-in voting. So we'll have a really good idea of what the issues could be, things that worked, things that didn't, and I'm absolutely planning on doing something along those lines.
Thank you for the additional color, Counsel Melville. Counsel Turco.
Okay, so that motion, the motion was approved. My apologies.
I gotta call it up. The motion is that I would just want to echo that's perfect and makes perfect sense to do that before. But on the motion, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Counsel Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to make a motion to something I had referenced earlier. I think it's been mentioned by Councilor Sasslaw and others in the past that we do and should have we do need and should have an attorney that represents this council directly and does not work directly for the mayor of Peabody. We have 3 lawyers that work directly for the mayor. So I'd like to refer that issue to legal affairs again for discussion before this council. I realize that we cannot spend money, but I think we can advocate to have this added to the budget for the benefit of permit hearings like we just had, where Counselors oftentimes meet with developers and/or their lawyers, and maybe multiple councils, maybe 2, maybe 3 were at meetings about 40Bs. Maybe we should have some advice that's given to us for the benefit of us. So I would like to refer that to Legal Affairs for discussion.
Thank you, Council Turco. On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to have DPS repair the, have the water department repair the gate valve in the sidewalk that's raised up 2 inches on 38 Dexter Street.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to have DPS clean out the storm drain at 4 Farm Ave.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to have the DPS repair the street in front of the residence driveway at 7 Lynch Street. It's we'll call it a pothole, but larger than a pothole.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. One final motion. I'd like to refer to the building commissioner to look into whether 43 Main Street, Olio, is adhering to the zoning ordinance for 10-4D, which was previously mentioned in meetings for the rear buffer zone.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council Turco.
No further motions, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Martin.
Sorry, could you repeat what the motion was, that it's sending the building inspector to Olio for what?
For, if you remember in the first hearing, I had mentioned the zoning ordinance 10-4D requires a rear buffer zone for anywhere a rear yard meets a side yard in the BC district. And for some reason that was missed by the building commissioner. I did mention that to Sarah, and I just wanted Al to take a look at it and see if it's in adherence. I don't think it is, so maybe that will help with the residents and the noise in the rear to address that.
Council Rosano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one motion. Motion to suspend rules and go past 11.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council Rosano.
No further motions.
Apologize. We technically we're not doing new business, so we can continue, but we should do a roll call vote. So at this point in time, the motion on the floor is to continue business until we complete. So roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw. Welton. He's not on. Charist.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
No.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-1.
Council Rosano.
Late 5.
Further motions.
Thank you, Council Rosano. Council Melville.
Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item late 5, forward to the Legal Affairs Subcommittee. So moved.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Council Melville.
Just a quick thing. I was going to bring it up at one of these meetings, but I think you guys would all want to know this. Obviously, with the disaster that occurred in Afghanistan about a month and a half ago, the interpreter linguist for my platoon's family was still stuck there, and the Taliban actually tried to put an IED in front of their house and blew it up. And a couple of my brothers from 1st Platoon, Charlie Company 181 Infantry, did some really great work and got an article in the Globe that got picked up nationally because my linguist came to the United States, joined the U.S. Army, and went back. Kind of a crazy story, and I don't do much on social media, but I had reposted a couple of these articles. And this guy, his name, Syed Noor, had no connection with our area, but our congressman, and this is not political, but our congressman, Seth Moulton, he's got guts, because he went there, and he got this guy's family out. And they were targeted. They were going to be killed. They tried to kill them. And Congressman Moulton's staff, Nisha Suarez, got back to me within 5 minutes of me contacting them, had said they're going to start working to help him out. got this guy's family out, and he's done some media side. He was on CNN. It's a very good story if you read up on it. But this is our congressman did this. A lot of people were left behind, but I just wanted to give a shout out to his staff who were responsible for not just this family getting out, but a number of them, and they were working 24/7. I've never really dealt with their constituency services before, but I can tell you from the guys I served with, obviously a tough time, but this was a minor thing to look forward to be happy about. And these people, and the only thing that was brought up from Nisha did mention to me was we should be prepared to help out some of these folks that are going to be coming over here. And just keep in mind, these are the people that I'm walking around because of some of these folks. So keep that in mind when some of these folks are being resettled. These are our allies, our friends. But I just wanted to give a shout out to him. I think it's a positive story in a pretty negative time. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that story, Council Melville. Wanted to just make one motion tonight. Move to request Department of Public Service to install a berm at 55 Pearlie Avenue. So moved. On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. I do want to mention quickly to the councilors that because of the holiday schedules in November, we're trying to work on scheduling the meetings. At this point in time, due to Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, it'll be November 9th and November 16th, which is a Tuesday. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. We are adjourned.